Hi, John.
Hey.
Gotta be quiet for a second.
Okay. What are we looking at?
What's up, everybody?
What's up? Welcome to Awesome Talk, Quarantine Edition number 21 on January 1st, 2021. And it's a perfect way for you to start the year. Yeah. So welcome to the show. Tonight, can you mute your thing? I'm just looping.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's too much shit going on now that I have speakers.
I know, I hear two of me.
Sorry.
No, all right, so is it still doing it?
Well, I don't know where it's coming from this time.
These microphone issues.
My shit's muted.
It's not.
Well,
It's
I
not
don't know.
muted.
It's not what my computer's telling you a different story. I don't know exactly what.
But if you're still broadcasting through the speakers and the headphones, then the other microphone's picking it up.
Discussing a long list of sound problems tonight.
Yeah.
I think I've made my point.
Well, you need to do something because I'm looping.
All right. Well,
Wait, no, now you're good. Now you're good.
Oh, am I good now?
Yeah, I don't hear a loop anymore.
All right, the loop's gone.
Yeah, AI
Wait,
might
no,
have
it's back.
self-adjusted.
Oh, no, it's back. It's back.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure what the fuck.
You need to mute on Skype,
Yeah.
I think. How about? Oh, there we go. That's nice.
There you go.
All right, we're gonna start over again. I'm gonna play the intro over again. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, welcome to the show. Tonight, joining us this evening, once again, Kristen Sarai is back on the show. So thank you very much for joining us again, Kristen.
Thank you, guys.
And longtime Awesome Talk alumni, John Lacki, is in the house tonight for the first time in a long time.
Hello.
So good to see you, John.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. It's been a while.
Yeah, don't forget to unmute yourself. That's all right.
John, that was a weirdly creepy laugh. That was like a semi-evil supervillain type of laugh.
I know. It's been so long. Devious laughter.
I've grown a pointy beard.
I did. Thank you.
I actually wasn't even serious, and then you like lifted your chin. I'm
No,
like,
actually-
oh, it is actually kind of fucking pointy, dude. I was
I
right.
know. I thought you saw it. I was like, wow, she really
No, I
caught
didn't
it.
see it.
Oh man.
So there's I don't know where to start. Say hi to the chat. Yes. Hold on a second. You know what? That's the deal right now. Is the chat didn't come up a second ago, so let me give this another try. Maybe it needed to catch up. Hold on. Let's see here. No, we don't want that. I know, right? Boy, it's a lot of scrolling just to get to one thing here. Ah, here we go. There we are. There's the chat. There's my mom. There's Amy. There's Brandy. There's Keith. There's Mike Pepe. Welcome, you guys. Welcome. So, I don't know where to begin tonight. Because, you have all different sides of the spectrum going on, right? So you've got New Year's going on. So I'll throw a few things out there, whatever, you guys, whatever sticks to the wall, you guys can peel off and take a look at. That's how that saying goes.
That famous adage.
Yeah. So
We should start with New Year's.
I was going to say, it's 2021. It's the new year. And I have mixed feelings about when people
only
say...
if you believe in the Christian crew. That's it. That's the only time.
I don't believe in anything. I'm just rolling with the punches, Stones.
So what year is it
that-
actually, if I don't believe in that?
Yeah, what year is it?
It's not. I don't believe in anything, Stones. But it's the new year, and I have mixed feelings about people who talk shit about the new year being like a big deal. You know, you have a lot of people now who get up on their high horse and talk about how, you know, it's just the next day and it's the same shit all over again, and they're not wrong.
Dude, I think it's really funny that I know that you're not like directly thinking about it, but I find it hilarious that last night we had this conversation with Stones, and Stones was saying the exact thing that you're saying some people say right now. And I know that's why Stones is silently laughing, because I know you're not like trying to covertly talk about Stones. I know that it's just that you totally forgot we had that conversation.
I utterly forgot that conversation. Utterly
He's setting him up for a reply.
So my wonder for the new year is there going to be that gym burst of membership like there usually is every year, and what does that look like?
No. Now it's going to be online memberships, so people can live feed their class right into your living room.
Which honestly is better.
So much better.
I think it's so much better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see me flail around and almost die at the gym. You know, I'd rather do it at home like when I'm by myself.
There's no social interaction as far as I'm concerned with the gym. I have not gotten along with anybody there or started any conversations with random people. It is you are there to work and go.
Good
Did
for
you get
you.
any good tips?
Because every time I go to the gym, like when I had my gym membership way back, some like random guy would be like, "You're using the machine wrong." And I'd be like, "All right, thanks. Bye."
Thanks.
Yes.
What a great line. Like, what an absolutely unpredictable line. Hey, you're using
I'm
that
just
machine
using a
wrong.
stair climber.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know how I could use that.
I can only use stairs one way.
That's what you think.
Just wait.
Just wait. So my point is I guess the whole resolution thing. Is it a worthwhile thing? Is it not a worthwhile thing? Is it bullshit? I mean, everything's bullshit to some degree.
Well, if you fail for so many years and you feel terrible about it, you know, like if you're like 3 months into the year and you've already failed at every goal that you've ever set out for as a resolution, you know, at some point you just have to accept the 9 months of depression in the hopes that you'll do something great, but you know the chances and the likelihood are you're just going to be depressed the rest of the year.
This is getting weirdly autobiographical, Stones.
Yeah. A little weird. A little uncomfortable.
Just saying, for that guy, just know that, you know, that's going to be a thing. If you don't already.
I just think that, you know, whatever floats your boat, you know, whatever allows you to feel like you're getting that reset button that you might need to feel good about yourself, I think it's okay. I don't see why we should take it away from anybody.
I'm not taking anything away from anybody, man. Anybody can feel
Take everything away from
I think you're trying to take everything away from
all.
everybody, Stones. I think you're that
Just
guy.
take everything. Leave them with nothing.
But this year, I think you get a pass, right? Like if you had some kind of resolution that every year you do. I mean, this year, like we barely made it out alive. The fact that we made it through it all is just like the only thing that matters at this point. So like you can cut yourself some slack for 2021, I think, at least until June, July.
Imagine how many people's resolution last year was, I'm going to increase my profits. Oof.
Yeah, I think last year's
Not
a
so much.
mulligan. It's a mulligan.
Yeah, do over.
I think everybody's resolution this year should be to have no resolution, but that's just my opinion. Just take it easy. This was a tough year. Just don't put any more undue pressure on yourself.
I guess the resolution does do that too. It puts that added, because now I've made a commitment, but then I don't know. What about people who need the commitment? I don't know.
I think people just need to feel better after this year, and so people are just like grasping at straws now. And also, like, having a resolution is like such a tradition thing, no? Like people like really, I don't know, go hard for it.
Yeah,
like,
I completely encourage resolutions. Hey, if you're one of the success stories, or you've even had a modicum of success with any of your resolutions, and you live a better life because of it, by all means.
Have any of you made big resolutions and then you were proud because you kept them? Has that ever happened, like, significantly that you remember it because it was a big deal?
No, nothing's really a big deal after a while. It's all like
It's
pretty
all
much
meaningless.
I've had like ideal or like big overarching like this year I'm gonna do XYZ,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like it's now the new year so I have to do it, but I don't know, like I don't think I've ever set one and actually stuck to it.
Yeah.
But or if I did, it had nothing to do with the new year. It was just like
an old year,
a life goal, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, like this needs to change. This is something that I need to work on or whatever.
I will make a resolution.
In 2022.
I resolve to listen to less Danzig.
Never.
Okay, so let's see. Let's take a look at the
I don't think people are going to gyms though. I'll say that much.
No, I don't
well,
think so.
some people fucking
Some people
are.
will. Yeah.
Jesus.
That's true.
Some people
yeah.
haven't stopped.
It's crazy.
Some people have not stopped at all. That is correct. I know one of those people.
Really?
And I'm very worried about their mental health. Like,
Dude,
what are you
I just
doing?
don't understand the people that act like they can't exercise if they don't have a specific thing. Like,
Yeah.
I've told this story a lot of times
I
because I've told this story before because I always thought it was kind of, I don't know, I just think it's kind of psycho. But I was friends with someone who was waiting for a package once, like years ago. And he was waiting for, I think it was like Dance Dance Revolution or something for his console.
Oh, I remember
And
that.
he was super pissed off because it kept being delayed in the shipping because he couldn't exercise until it came. And I'm like, dude, like there's a door like 4 feet from me with like a huge wilderness just surrounding us. Like, what are you even fucking talking about? And like, I feel like people act just the same when it comes to the gym. Like, if the gym isn't available, like, well, fuck it, you're dead. Like, you're just gonna wither away now.
Okay, so can I give you an example where you're wrong in this
Yeah, in
instance?
situations where people are disabled and they need special equipment.
Yeah, that's
No,
I mean that's a different story.
That's not it. That's not it. You're wrong. Okay, so let me tell you.
That's right, because that's my problem with it.
Right.
So that's why I said it.
But you're like I'll give you, for instance, you know, I was riding my bike to work. Winter came around. I'm now getting rides into work, and the work itself, I haven't been physically exerting myself, which I normally do, and at work. And another job that I should be physically exerting myself doesn't exist at the moment because of this bullshit that's going on. So my life was very disrupted with my physical activity and my, you know,
but that doesn't mean that you can't fucking do jumping jacks literally exactly where you are right now. Like, you don't need a gym or it can't happen. If you need a gym where it's not happening.
It's super disrupted and it's a completely different frame of mind. So
fine, but I'm talking about the physical inability to fucking exercise. That you're talking about a mental inability to exercise.
right.
That's
Exactly.
a whole
Always just
other-
go outside too. Just take a walk.
That's my point. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly
You know?
right. He lives like 3 blocks from the fucking beach.
Oh, nice.
I
You
can't
can do some
exercise
beach
unless
yoga.
there yeah.
Certain
I can't
parameters-
exercise unless there's arrows pointing up and down telling me which way to jump. That's the only that's the only way I could do it.
You got to find the gym staircase guy to help you out.
Yes,
Tell you-
please.
Excuse
Show
me,
me
miss,
The whole-
sweetheart, you're
the
doing
whole
those
beginning of
stairs
the
wrong.
pandemic, the whole beginning of the pandemic, every morning I'd wake up and I would do 45-minute stretch video on YouTube with this fucking same dude every fucking day, man. It was fucking awesome. It was super fucking chill. You know, stretching's good.
Yeah, man, I started doing
When-
yoga during the quarantine, and the yoga stretches helped my neck recovery by like a mile, dude.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
and I also found another thing on YouTube called Team Body Project, and it's just these like this married couple from New Zealand who just yell at you about how great life is while they exercise, and you just follow along. And I'm like, and the guy's like, all right, it's your heart, and your heart is strong, and you're strong, and there's the finish line, and you're gonna win, and that's all you know how to do is win. You're here, take a break, don't take a break, just finish and win. And I'm like, I'm all about this.
Like, I love you, sir.
Yeah, this is motivation, man.
So, similarly, I found a YouTube channel called German in Venice. And the video quality is poor. There's no good bumpers on it, but the guy's just so happy. And he's like showing homeless people, like he's showing all this dark shit. But I'm just so refreshed by how happy he is just as a person generally that it's like a good watch. Highly recommend.
The German in Venice?
The German in Venice.
I have to check that out now. I'm looking for more I need more positive. That's my resolution for this year. More positive things. That's it.
Yeah.
Just more fun TikTok videos. I'm tired of the news. I'm tired of these fucking people in charge. I just want to see fun shit, happy shit.
I hate all the complaining and the hate that's just. Ugh.
I don't mind hate when it's directed,
it's just
when it's measured perfectly at its target. I mind it when it's based on bullshit and nonsense and it's really bizarre, and it's impossible to get away from too. Even on the show, we talk about things, and inevitably we end up circling around to, this conversation about the way people are behaving, and it's impossible to get away from right now.
Yeah. More people need to see therapists, is my honest opinion. Not so much more people need to see therapists. We need to make
but
therapy
if
more
you prop
accessible.
that market up, you're gonna have a lot of bad therapists along with that. If that market.
But
I keep seeing ads for different online mental health things after the pandemic started, and some of them are really questionable. I'm like, who the fuck are the people that they're saying are counselors and therapists that you can talk to for
where's their certificate? Is it a Google certification?
A therapist on a subscription plan. It's super weird. It just seems shady. It seems like it's just out to prey on poor people.
You say it's a therapist on a subscription?
Yeah, lately
think about it.
Use promo code Awesome Talk.
Dude,
they send you a mental health loot crate every month?
No, I get Facebook ads for them all the time, and it's not just one company. It's all different companies, and it's just they are marketing that you're never so broke you can't get mental help. Essentially, is kind of the vibe of their ads. Is we're affordable enough for everybody.
It must be trying to target a market while advertising to you, Sarah.
Yeah, it's probably well, we see the people that you're hanging out with, and that guy Stones looks like you're repressing your fucking sanity a little bit. So here's some online therapy. It's cheap because no one wants to hear all your complaints about him.
I listen to a lot of depressing podcasts and hear those ads all the time. You're listening to this, so you probably have some issues that you need to work through.
Every single time I listen to the Dateline podcast, whenever I'm working, it's BetterHelp. You need to see a therapist because you're listening to too much true crime.
Yep, that's the one. I hear BetterHelp. Yeah, BetterHealth. I hear that one all the time, and it's part of me is just talking to anyone, even if they're not a licensed person, is probably, if you're not talking to anyone and you have all these thoughts and you're just going insane, maybe it's okay just talking to fucking some random dude with a Patreon that set up a mental health clinic. But
he's got a 1-800 number.
Yeah, 1-800 get health.
Support my Patreon. Yeah.
Do they charge by the minute? Is it like the Santa rapper?
No, I think it charges by the appointment. So I don't know the deep details. I didn't get fully invested, but it just
I would assume it's a monthly subscription.
It just seems shady.
It's very expensive.
Mike Pepe said Talkspace is the one that he hears about a lot.
Yeah. That one too.
Talkspace, BetterHelp.
Wow, I must be beyond help. I definitely
not even getting the ads.
Jody, Azria, and some fucking.
Dude, I guarantee you that in the next week you're gonna get those ads now.
Oh,
There's
ab-
no
now,
way.
absolutely. Yeah,
100%.
So I have a question that I wanted to put out to you and the chat. So our friend Keith, who's been on the show a bunch of times, does something called Charity with Consequences. So basically, he picks a charity, and if he raises X amount of dollars, he has to do this consequence. If he raises above that amount, he does another consequence. A lot of the consequences have been pepper-based consequences, eating things that are ridiculously hot. So anyway, he's doing one in the future on Awesome Talk, and he asked me for some ideas about consequences, and I was like, dude, I can't think of things for you to deal with. Like, he just said he didn't want anything gross. So I said I would ask on Awesome Talk and see what kind of things people can come up with that are reasonable consequences, not like he has to jump off a fucking skyscraper or something.
What are some of the other things he did that were pepper based? Is it just eating insanely hot?
So one of them was like an
Satan's
insane hot sauce, and then another one was I think just the pepper itself, and then the last one.
No, the last one he did was the ramen, and then he also
did was like a hot, spicy Korean noodles or something.
Right, and he did a Satan's toe, and he was throwing up during that into a mailbox. And I say mailbox, I don't mean like an outside mailbox. I mean like a first box made out of cardboard.
Good thing that box is there. I don't know. It's like, man. So the problem is now that just makes me think of all like food-based things. Like,
I know, right? It like.
Well, that's certainly the simplest of them. Yeah, I mean, we could get the toenail puller for him.
The only thing that I can think of is doing something like a polar bear challenge situation. You know.
That's good too.
That's a good one. Has he shaved his head yet?
Yeah, he did that. He cut off his beard. He shaved his head.
Man,
yeah.
Yeah, polar bear challenge is a good one. You know have you guys heard about the polar bear challenge, Asbury Park? Those fucking cocksuckers, what they fucking did?
No. Let's hear about this shit. Let's pissed off about this shit.
Oh my God! So there's in Asbury Park every year. There's supposed to be a big polar bear plunge, January 1st. New Year's today, right? And this year, the people who sponsor that, that people who coordinate that whole event, they encouraged people to do it as individuals, and they were still accepting donations, but they weren't going to be present for the event. So they were still taking people's money and encouraging people to do it as individually or whatever the fuck. Everybody, just go down to the beach and just do it New Year's Day regardless. Like, there was no warning about anything. There was just, encouragement for a crowd to gather.
So just out of curiosity, what happens when they are actually there? Like, do they have food stands and shit? Like, what do they provide when they're actually there?
I don't know, like coffee, I think afterwards. Certainly lifeguards. I mean, there's lifeguards available because there's always that risk of somebody going into some type of a
the only thing they really missed out on was safety and some coffee.
Hot dogs, maybe.
Oh, they have a pink rope. I think they kind of corral everybody together like cattle. I guess depending on how big the turnout is, they want it to be crowded, so they corral people. So hopefully people were spread out during the event. That's what I'm hoping.
Basically, what it sounds like is they weren't needed for fucking anything. Like, nobody missed out on anything that a cooler wouldn't fucking any of the work
and encourage some like some togetherness shit. It was just like, I don't know. I mean, hopefully they did it right. Hopefully they could have done it right.
I think this is just an awakening for everyone that participates in this. That fuck you guys, we'll just find a chat room to go in and figure this out ourselves.
So Brandy Lynn in the chat said full body wax as a consequence.
Oh man.
Ooh.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot to fucking commit.
Judging by Keith's facial hair, I worry that he's, a hairy dude. Right. And
we gotta think of a brand, like a corporate brand name to tattoo on him.
I thought of that, but I thought that might have been too far.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Would an awesome talk tattoo be too much? That'd be fucking cool.
Keith said, I don't know how well a full body wax would translate via live stream.
Keith, I got to tell you, I got to be honest with you. I feel like it would translate very well.
I don't know. That's a lot, dude.
It's a lot.
Because remember, they're going to have to go in all near your asshole and everything.
Will they?
Yeah. It's called full body wax for a fucking reason.
He's just making up all these rules as he goes along.
It's called charity, Sarah.
Yeah. It's not a time to be selfish.
You got to think outside the box for charity.
He said sponsored by Pepsi. So a full body waxing, like,
and then a Pepsi tattoo.
Like if Pepsi, if Pepsi,
it could be like Yankee Candle Company or something.
like if Pepsi pledged like $10,000 to something in your name and sponsored your full body wax, is that enough?
Yeah, but he has to get the Pepsi logo waxed into him.
There you go.
Dope. Does he have a hairy ass?
I don't.
Going to the chat. Hold on.
Well, I mean, I'm not looking at it right now.
John has us all on standby.
Yeah.
I say shaves half his ass and runs mooning through something.
This is all so much extra camera work.
That's the whole thing. We just need a camera to sit in one place for the most part.
Can we just, all right, listen, can we start with simple things before we get into, like, he has to build a house?
Right, but the full body wax is far from a house.
I mean,
I'm just talking half his ass, man.
In terms of, like, what you have to exert,
Okay,
I don't
hold
think
on a
it's
minute.
that far off.
Let's say he was going to wax half his ass. Where's the midpoint?
Why are we even saying that?
We
I don't-
call it the half moon marathon.
You are not
This
good
has
at naming
gotten
things.
so much more south than I ever thought it ever fucking could. Keith said he's not trying to get arrested.
Smart.
Smart move on Keith's part.
Drag.
Whatever happened to Pat and Rob?
I don't know.
My God.
He could have just said his ass wasn't hairy. That would have been enough.
Maybe certain people don't want to talk to you about their asses, Stones. Maybe it's all like,
His output, instead of saying I don't want to get arrested.
He just wants to keep having opportunities to bring up the story about how he shaved his ass on someone's lawn. He's just trying to corral you guys into a
No, I'm not
trap.
trying to corral you. I was doing my own thing with it. You're the one bringing it. I was not.
And by the way, it wasn't his ass; it was half his ass.
That's
All right. Well, now,
point.
but now you have to tell the story because you can't just leave it hanging there.
Well, all right. My kid was a baby. He was still in the crib, and I thought shaving half my ass would have been funny. So I stood over the crib and I said, "Honey, doesn't the baby look beautiful under the lighting of a half moon?" And I did it for the joke. I did it strictly
Totally
for
worth
the
it.
There are so many missing parts.
Yeah, tell them the reason why you did it on the lawn, Stones.
Yeah,
That was like-
why
that
does
was
a
like
lawn
looking at-
play into this?
That was like looking at a cardboard cutout of a car versus a real car. Like it was. You're like, I thought it was funny. Here's my ass. I have a kid. Ass over the bed. Half a moon. Hey, like there was no connective tissue. I don't know how one thing led to the other.
The end.
Great story.
It's got the bones of a great story. It's right there. It's so close.
It was easy to get rid of the hair on the lawn. There was no.
That's true. As someone that got their hair cut,
It's obvious, so, you know?
as
Did
someone
you
that got their
pick up
hair cut
that
on their back
thing?
porch this past 6 months, I absolutely understand that.
He put his fucking ass hair in the ground and then dick trees grew out of it.
Did you wake up that morning and you were like, "This is what I'm gonna do with my day"?
Yeah, pretty much.
It was
When I got
like
the idea.
It was his resolution. He resolved to do that day, and he fucking did it. This is a full circle moment.
Yeah, that's a New Year's resolution for you.
Shave my ass on the lawn.
Time to shave the other half.
Yeah, did you ever shave the other half, or just wait for it to like?
No, I just
one half through and
equilibrium.
slightly thicker.
He just continued to shave that one half for all time.
Right, because that would be weird if it wasn't even.
After a while.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the reason why you walk with that like sort of John Wayne tilt.
Look, ass hair is
There's
not
more
like
hair on
eyebrows.
one side.
When you rip it out, it doesn't necessarily not grow back.
I don't know if I could shave my own ass. I don't even know if I have like the dexterity to reach around and see like what's happening back there and make sure I got everything.
What the fuck are you seeing? God.
If I'm going to do it, I want it to look
That
good.
sounds like some ableist talk.
I feel like we made such
Sorry,
a mistake here because I know that in all of our minds, we were all imagining that Stones had perfectly shaved part of his ass. Where the truth of the matter is that more likely he's fucking bent over his kid's face with a like stubbly, like broken haired, like bristles falling off ass, like laughing hysterically at his own joke. And we're over here giving him so much credit that we're acting like he perfectly shaved it like a fucking salon did it.
It was a lot of rubbing. A lot of ass rubbing.
That's what I'm saying. You need like 3 mirrors to pull this off.
Yeah, and like one of those like $4.99 bottles of aloe gel.
It's
Dude, he's just bent
I
over
cleaned
by
up.
the fucking rim of his car looking at the reflection. Like tailpipe reflection.
None of the ash hair landed in the crib.
That's good. We'd have to call Child Protective Services if.
Like Pepe said, you need 2 things to shave your ass: a steady hand and a friend who can keep their mouth shut.
Exactly.
Well, it would not have been any of us. That's for fucking sure, Mike Pepe, because we all have cameras.
This was before everybody had a camera in their pocket.
Yeah.
You get away with shit like that.
Right, you're probably making this story up. There's not even any proof.
It was 18 years ago.
Exactly. It barely even exists.
Yeah, he has like pictures that his kid drew with crayons as a kid. It's just horrible pictures from like 15 years worth of just this ass hanging over his crib. I don't know what it means, Mom. I just keep seeing it in my head, but I don't know what it means.
He just keeps drawing a line with a half circle. What's wrong with him?
Hieroglyphics.
So, have you guys?
Okay, so back to the real question here about the charity and the consequences of it. You know, I need some milk for my low blood sugar, but please try and think of actual consequences.
What's the charity? Like, what's the charity for?
Not entirely sure. We didn't pick a winner yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so the charities vary.
But all your charities, any charity will welcome these consequences.
Right, any charity will welcome his his amazing consequences.
His brutal torture.
Yes.
I don't know. All I keep thinking of is like scenes from Jackass where someone didn't get really seriously injured, and I can't think of any. I'm just trying to come up with anything where someone wasn't grievously injured.
He should go out. He should walk around in public with the underwear that has a pussy built into the back.
I'm mad. I know what you're talking about.
I'm mad that I don't know what you're talking about.
You know, I don't know what he's talking about. What do you mean? Underwear with a what?
I was trying to be cool, like, oh, everybody knows what this is, so I'm just gonna pretend, like, oh yeah, sure.
Oh my god, it's like a really obnoxious looking pair of underpants. That's all.
It's like bright pink. It's like bright, like neon, like traffic cone pink.
What?
He should just dye his hair traffic cone pink then. There you go. Shave a vagina into the back of your head. That's it. Perfect.
That's
Boom.
a good one.
I like that one.
That's a good one.
Done.
Yeah. That would be a good one.
Or like do like one of those barber cuts where it's like pussy power in the back of your head.
Yes.
Instead of a lightning bolt.
But who do you get to do something like that? It takes real skill to carve that shit into someone's hair.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You know, got to be people who specialize in that. Hit the Instagram, find out. There's got to be somebody local who does that.
I'm sure there's someone that could make that happen.
Definitely.
I just saw a local chick do a like a smiley face in this dude's head with dye. I'm sure she could do print but it would look like pretty sloppy, but it would spell correctly.
That's what you want more than anything.
Yeah, that matters. To be honest, if he wrote pussy power in his head and had an S missing or something, it would be funnier.
Like he just randomly got it on the street. He didn't actually go anywhere.
He's like, I just pulled the car over real quick for a haircut.
Yeah.
Real quick.
And this is what happened.
This is what they gave me. The guy playing drums in the bucket decided that pussy power was going to be in my head. I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about anymore. I don't know what a good I like the idea. Look, hey, maybe a full body wax is too much to ask. But maybe there's a sort of wax that does work. That isn't a horror show where we're not asking you to wax your balls necessarily. Though I will say a lot of people would tune in for that. People would be like, "Oh, dude, this dude is waxing his balls live right now." As soon as that hits Twitter, it's all over.
Yeah, but at that point, you're submitting to a specific demographic that may or may not.
Yeah, the human American one.
Yeah, I keep in mind that he's raising money for a charity that exists. So let's just keep it a little bit fucked in.
Okay, now that makes sense because if he's doing it for St. Jude's, then perhaps that's crossing a line.
Hey, look at my balls, kids.
Right. That's a bad move. It's a bad move.
Yeah, enjoy this free meal on my balls.
Right. But a chest or nipple waxing. Ooh, nipple waxing followed by quick electrocution.
Dude, all right, I'm regretting asking this question.
I told you before I'm not good at this.
Wait, but Sarah, you had those electrocuting things.
Yes, I know. Well, but I mean, people use those for actual medical reasons. I don't consider that a punishment.
Yeah, but you just amp it up a little bit.
All the way up.
Turn it all the way up.
Yeah.
Amp it up, guys.
Keith says no BDSM.
We'll raise the voltage a little bit on the transformer,
The transformer. It runs on 2 AAA batteries.
Yeah, well, it does, but Stones is an electrician.
Like Stones would call it a transformer.
We'll make it more batteries.
He's comes up from behind you, jangling his pocket. He's like, "Got an idea how much power's in that thing?"
Yeah.
Dude, I bet you those ratings are rated for at least 20% more for safety.
Here it is. I told you.
Yeah, you just shove one more battery into it.
You gotta wire it.
All right, Dr. Science.
Come on, Stones. You just jam it in there. It'll work.
Yeah, Keith, I'm honestly, dude, I'm not trying to kill you. Like I said, that I thought something cold. The reason I brought that up to begin with is because I was talking to Rick and I said he seems to have done a lot of things that are related to heat, so we should think of something fucking cold. And that's how it turned into he should just go in the ocean or something.
Which I like. I like that one.
I think that's probably the best one.
Yeah,
I think so too.
And now is the perfect time. We'll look for the coldest day coming up. Because people are going to look that shit up.
If he's not necessarily traveling or doesn't want to do that, then there has to be an at-home version.
Well, Brandy Lynn just said pepper spray.
Pepper spray is not the at-home version of the ocean. It's the total opposite.
He's very pepper themed, right?
Just go up to a cop and give him a push and then see what happens.
No, don't do any of those things. Please, Keith.
You have to run up to, look, you have to make a quick deal with the cop. That's how it works. Just run up to him real quick and you're just like, hey man, listen, I'm going to push you, but it's not a real thing. And then I want you to pepper spray the shit out of me. All right. I'm filming this for Facebook. All right. So here we go. Like, and then you push him and he actually just beats the shit out of you.
I was going to say, don't worry. He was going to do that anyway.
Oh my God.
That's not a good one. But I do like the ocean one. I do like the ocean. Keith, I don't know how you feel about that.
The flashing between
Not me. Nothing I can do about it.
Why the hell did that start happening all of a sudden?
I don't know. Probably XSplit needs to do an update, and now I'm stuck between that and Skype.
Well, I'm sorry to the chat people that's happening.
Every time it
definitely-
switches people,
Sorry.
the Skype
time someone's
symbol
talking,
pops
it
up,
switches.
and it's not our fault. The software.
We're definitely not sponsored by Skype.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's accidental branding for a service that we consistently complain about.
Yeah.
What are
did
the other
anybody-
options?
Well, their options. I don't know. So here's like Skype and XSplit work together perfectly, usually. So that's why we use Skype. So,
Got it.
alternatives don't really allow us to do the things we need to do. But has anybody seen the trailer for Coming to America 2 yet?
Yes.
I've not.
Yes.
I haven't seen
My
it.
God, yes.
I
Is it
can't
good?
believe that you haven't seen it yet.
All
All right, you guys need to go watch it right now.
I'll pull up a separate window.
Yeah.
That's what I was hoping for.
The first thing I want to point out is Eddie Murphy looks almost exactly the same.
The same. He
Eddie
looked-
Murphy and Arsenio Hall have not aged a day.
Oh my
I mean,
Arsenio
they've
Hall,
aged
wow.
a little bit, but the amount of time that's passed since that movie came out and this one now, I was
Dude.
like, I'm shook. They look great.
It's an
Shook it.
amazing, it's amazing.
Mhm.
Eddie Murphy looks the same age.
Yeah. Oh.
Incredibly good shape. I can't believe and I love that the barbershop guys are still there. They didn't think that they'd be dead by now, you know what I mean? Because they got to be 120 at this point, but they're there. But I'm so excited about it, and I'm so excited to see Eddie Murphy really kicking ass again in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
Because he also did Dolomite recently, which was fucking great.
Dude, that
Oh, man,
movie
I meant
was
to see
so
that.
fucking good. Dude, it's so good. It's and I'm not like an Eddie Murphy hater. I'm not oh my God, an Eddie Murphy movie. I don't really carry their way. But dude, that was probably maybe the best thing I've ever seen him do. It was really, really good.
I've heard that was really good. I got to see that.
Really? I'm going to have to check this out now, too.
This trailer is nuts. I kind of feel like you're right. They haven't aged at all. It looks like you're just watching the original movie.
I'm telling you, vampires. I'm convinced. There's vampires. If you look at Eddie Murphy, you look at Angela Bassett, Jared Leto. Jared Leto 100% is a vampire. I don't care what anybody says.
100%.
If there were ever proof that they exist, it's Jared Leto. I saw, what was I watching the other day? American Psycho, and I was like, oh shit, fucking Jared Leto's in this movie.
Yeah, he just was in it yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
it's
like, he
like
was in
I
that-
didn't know he was in that
1998.
movie.
And
Yeah, he
the
gets killed.
old, I was like, oh my God, he's probably one of those old Anne Rice. I don't know if you guys know Anne Rice, the vampire Lestat and all
Yeah.
that
I've
weird
read
shit.
lots.
I was like, Jared Leto is definitely the Anne Rice vampire because he had 30 Seconds to Mars, and now he's he made music. Everybody loves him for that,
Well, dude,
and he's
didn't
just this
he
beautiful star.
he when the pandemic started, he was in some yoga retreat for several months and didn't know that
I saw that.
anything
He
He
has
was
his
feasting.
own. He has
He
his own
was
sex
feasting.
cult, right?
That's what was
yeah,
going
he went into the desert and started a cult apparently.
Oh,
Yeah, Paul
100%.
Rudd too, Mike Pepe, that for sure. Paul Rudd 100%.
Oh, Paul
Oh,
Rudd,
God.
yeah, definitely.
He's infinite. He'll be here forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's good for us.
But yeah, Jared Leto found out about the pandemic 6 months after it happened. He's like, oh, I had no idea. Just came back, was totally not a part of the world for a while.
Yeah.
He was
Dude,
I can't
that
be bothered
sounds
by these
so
earthly
nice.
things.
I
Be
Little
that
virus.
disengaged from society sounds just heavenly.
Yeah.
In order to have not known about the pandemic, that means he had zero social media or news of any sort. Think of how freeing that sounds.
It's amazing. And only someone like Jared Leto can pull that off.
That's people who have too much money, though, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
That's you have way too much money to disappear, and somebody's paying your bills, and you don't have to worry about your anything like that, or your
but-
kids where they're at, or what
You
they're
don't have to.
Can we
exist
be
in this
honest
world.
about something else too? He's also incredibly good looking, and anybody who
Yes.
looks like him is gonna be fine.
Yeah,
in a lot of
that's
ways.
true.
In a lot of ways, like there aren't like homeless guys who look like Jared Leto walking around. You know what I mean? Like he's. Have you ever seen 30 Seconds to Mars live? Anybody ever gone to a 30 Seconds to Mars concert?
I have way long ago.
Where did you go?
I went, I think it was PNC, and it was like I was in like college, like my freshman year of college, down in I think it was like 2011, 2012.
I saw him at the Stone Pony maybe in 2007 or 8.
Oh shit.
Maybe earlier than that. And I felt like at that time the whole Stone Pony was all mostly girls who were there to see Jared Leto, and their boyfriends were there to ensure their girlfriend didn't fuck Jared Leto. That's what I felt like, and that to me, just as an observer, that felt to me like what I was seeing. Like it was just a bunch of girls and boyfriends like doing this. Like it was really weird. It was really weird, but they were really good though. And
I don't think I've ever
know.
actually heard them.
Dude, 30 Seconds to Mars is amazing. Like, he's not just a good actor, he's a great singer, too.
Yeah, which is why he's a vampire. Because you can't be good at music, beautiful, rich.
He's basically Lestat.
Like,
he's Lestat.
Yeah. You can't have all these things and not, like, have had a contract with, like, the devil or something. I don't know.
Right?
Oh, and also I'm in Blade Runner. No big deal. I'm just gonna do that.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. I forgot.
Did you see the picture I posted from Blade Runner 2049? John, I don't know if you use Facebook anymore.
I don't. No, I'm
Good for
I'm
you.
off the book. I'm off
Good
the
for
book.
good for you. It's a toxic waste dump of
I
people's
can't even
dumbass
imagine.
thoughts.
When I got off, it was starting to turn. I mean, it had already turned, but I can't even imagine what it's like now.
It's like become YouTube too when it comes to comments. It's really something else. But
What did you post?
I posted something about Blade Runner, and when they were doing Blade Runner 2049, there's a scene in Blade Runner 2049. Spoilers for anybody who's never seen it. There's a scene where Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling are fighting, and when they were shooting that scene, Harrison Ford accidentally decked Ryan Gosling for real, and they have a picture from behind Ryan Gosling of the moment after the punch took place. So like Ryan Gosling's spit is still flying through the air, and his face is like, and you see Harrison Ford behind him like this, and he's like, and it's the funniest shit you've ever seen, dude. The funniest shit you've ever seen.
I don't think Harrison Ford is ever acting when he's in a movie. He just shows up and is just himself, and he just wanted to punch him that day and just did it. So they were like, "All right, that's in the movie now."
If you look at the picture,
You look
Harrison
concerned.
Ford's face, dude, he has a look of like shock. Like it's like a look of
shock,
like,
horror, oh my
holy
God, what did I just
shit,
do?
that's not what I meant to do. And like somehow his face manages to capture both utter shock that it happened and like curiosity about what's about to happen next. Because like the dude like kind of looks like he's like almost knocked out. Like I don't know, like it just looked like he got pushed far back by the jolt of the punch. That's
so good. He's like punching Nazis.
Yeah, but it's fucking what's his name instead?
Ryan Gosling.
Well, remember, it's be pretty close. It's not like they're getting into bar fights ever. They got no experience.
He said he didn't like him as the Joker. Dude, I haven't watched that movie. I can't even get past the fucking trailer, honestly. It's
the Joker movie?
Oh, Suicide Squad. Yeah.
Oh.
Not
I was thinking of the Joker movie. Oh boy.
No, I was
fucking
talking
rough
about
one.
Jared Leto.
Oh yeah, okay. I haven't seen that.
I just.
Did you dislike the Joker movie, John?
I did.
Wow, why?
Because it's Taxi Driver, but not good. Like it's the exact same story as Taxi Driver.
Wow, I never thought of it that way, but I gotta say,
100%.
That is very right.
No, that's an accurate description.
But I will say that there. So I think it's a good assessment, but I think the difference is in Taxi Driver, he thought he was powerful, and I think in the Joker, it's a reaction of somebody being repeatedly abused and responding to it. So I think one comes from a place of power. One is born from a place of, I don't want to say weakness, but I guess more abuse.
I get that. I don't know. I think I'm at a point in my life where I'm just done with all comic book movies because they were all just like, here is a hammer and here is the plot, and I'm going to smash you over the head with it 7,000 times. Don't you understand? The Joker is sad, and I don't know. It was just.
Keith said it was inspired by Taxi Driver and King of Comedy.
Yeah, two amazing movies that the Joker cannot hang with at all because it's about the fucking Joker. I don't know. It's like, I get it. I get people like that movie. I could not. I looked over halfway through to my wife and I said, I know this is stupid, but is this a fucking joke? Is this movie for real? Are they just doing beat for beat everything from all these movies that are so much better that these young people have never seen and then think it's like God's gift?
Probably, yeah. You might,
yeah.
I'm telling you, really honest, you hit a chord here.
I think I was impressed at how well, though, Joaquin Phoenix could deliver a real, true feeling mental breakdown.
Totally. I can watch.
I love Joaquin Phoenix.
I could watch him read a phone book.
Exactly.
I'll be honest with you, man. It didn't even have to be a Joker movie. I almost wished it was in a way. I almost wish it was a different movie about a similar thing.
That's my point. I would watch him play that character, just not with all of the weight of the Joker shit behind it. You know?
Do you think though that there's some value behind taking a well-loved character and completely reimagining them in a different setting? You have what's the name of the Superman who landed in Russia instead of the United States, or the version of Superman where as a child he's a complete sociopath and he uses his power to fuck people up and he barely ever speaks, and it's what do you think of that? Is there any value to that? Or
yeah, I think taking these characters that we know extremely well and doing something different with them is there's something to be said for that. But at the same time, I kind of just want new characters. I think there's only so much we can this stuff has been done so many fucking times. How many more times can we see an origin story for these characters? Even if it's something completely different, right. It's just all right, we get it. This year, right, there were no Marvel movies, right? It was the 1 year where they had a ceasefire and they said, okay, we're not going to give you any Marvel movies this year. You can relax. It's fine. And it kind of felt kind of refreshing because it's just stop. I think it's the same shit with Star Wars. It's the same thing with everything where it's just it's too much. You people liked this. Okay, we're never going to stop until it is so toxic that we can't do it anymore. I
wonder if that's just not the wave of the future. If you think about it, everything is becoming a full multimedia experience. And if you look at Star Wars, for example, Star Wars has not hit all home runs in recent years. But if you look at the evolution and all the trial and error, I look at The Mandalorian and I go, dude, I could fucking live with this show on every day and be completely sucked into it because it's well done and it's well thought out and all that. Right. I just watched the entire season of Cobra Kai today, and I was so I guess for me it's
that didn't do mental damage.
As long as you're able to continuously tell a good story, I don't care how long something goes on for.
Absolutely. That's the most important thing. It's just sometimes there's what story is there to tell? The Mandalorian told a great story. It's a standalone, here are these people. There are people you care. It's the first time I've cared about someone in Star Wars in 20 years. I care about these characters and I care what happens to them. And all of a sudden there's this beacon of okay, we got it. We figured it out. People like The Mandalorian. Here's 20 spin-off shows from The Mandalorian that we're working on. And it's no, you don't get it. This is lightning in a bottle.
I feel The Mandalorian's whole purpose
I'll be right back.
was to set up these future shows. I think that this was way more than just a 3-year plan. This was a 20-year plan. Mike Pepe said Dave Filoni is amazing. Yeah, Dave Filoni basically should just get the keys to all of Star Wars, in my opinion. He is the best Star Wars writer fucking hands down ever of all time. I said that during Clone Wars and Rebels, and I stand by it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think that Mandalorian was intended to be like a jumping off point for all of these different series. Like, I don't think they were like, oh man, this is going great. Let's just come up with this real quick. I think this has probably always been what they had in store. And I'm fucking fine with it. Filoni's doing at least 2 of those other shows. So I know that they're going to be already, that they're going to have the characters that Filoni puts in everything.
Okay. Well, that's good.
And new characters are probably going to be dope. But like, listen, we're finally going to see a live action Thrawn. Like, I've waited like over a decade of my life for this moment.
I thought it was going to happen on The Mandalorian. I was like, oh God, they're going to show him
on the Ahsoka show.
All right. That's cool. And like, it feels like that's the thing. Like, I hate on all these like superhero movies and shit, but like, I want to be excited about something again. Like, I want to like be looking forward to something to watch. You know what I mean? Like, I love that people can get excited over these things. And like, there's part of me that's like jaded old man that's just like, oh, I fucking hate everything.
I haven't really watched. I've gotten so balls deep into Midnight Diner that like watching like actual TV shows of things happening is like just seems so weird right now. Like Midnight Diner is like if you are feeling horrible about life and then you put Midnight Diner on and like there's just all the people hanging out at the diner and it's just, you know, a good time with people that you love. It's like Japanese Cheers.
I watched
but, like,
that.
Way better because Cheers sucks in my opinion.
I watched an episode of that because I read about it because people were like, oh, it's like Yakuza, like the game. It's like weird side quest Yakuza. And it basically is. It's like, here are these like weird characters hanging out in this diner or this restaurant, whatever.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's awesome. The weird thing, it's weird that you said that because the whole reason I brought it up is because I was going to say, but recently I started watching Vikings and it's weird because as I play it, I feel like I'm fucking watching it. I feel like I'm fucking playing Assassin's Creed, and like some of the scenes on the show are so identical that I'm like, dude, did they like watch?
Did they just watch the show?
Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, there's like parts where like they get out of their boat and they just walk up to a town and raid it, and I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm watching behind the scenes of my characters.
It's like the entire game.
It's so weirdly perfect. Like it's almost like the scenes were taken right out of the show.
Does anyone leap off a cliff and land in a bale of hay?
Not yet, but I guarantee you that's gonna fucking happen.
I finally beat Assassin's Creed. It took me 85 hours. That is too much game. That's too much.
Too much game.
It's really sad how many more hours than that I've put into games.
But like, I'm not even like anywhere near done with everything. I just saw credits and I was just like, Jesus Christ, like pandemic, yo. It's like
the Ahsoka show could be better than The Mandalorian.
She's great. I loved her.
She's okay. Eccleston would have been the right choice.
Dude, I just love, you know, I don't know, whatever. There's something different about if they fill in the blanks to like show the Ahsoka that was represented in Mandalorian, it would probably make me feel better. But I think that the Ahsoka in the Mandalorian did a bunch of shit that Ahsoka would never fucking do. Like Ahsoka would never be like, here, person that knows nothing about the Force, take this infant to like the most powerful planet and have him broadcast to any Force user, whether they're fucking evil or not, that he exists and he's right there at that moment like a target. Meanwhile, I'm just gonna go continue what I was doing before. Like, I don't feel like Ahsoka would have fucking done that. So like,
Ahsoka would have made him her new mission.
To why she's suddenly a bit harder in a way, like that would help me make me believe this version of Ahsoka more. But right now we're associating who Ahsoka was with this character, and that's probably not a good idea because she's been through a lot of bullshit.
Yeah. Well,
all I know is they had enemies from the Dark Forces video game from 1993.
Oh yeah, dude.
And that blew my mind.
Dude,
like
they had the
Dark Troopers. I was like, that's from. I was like, Kate, that's from a goddamn video game.
Not only did they have the fucking Dark Troopers, but they had the fucking HK droid in there, and he had like the fucking.
Did they really? I don't think.
Yeah, dude. In the Ahsoka episode, how could you miss it? And like that fucking droid that fights them, and then he fucking ends up getting killed by Ahsoka, I think. Or maybe it was, I don't know who the fuck it was, but it doesn't matter. The point is that was a fucking HK droid. The only thing missing was they weren't calling people like meathead and shit.
From like old okay, yes, okay. Man, all I know is they showed those friggin' droids, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This is like the nerdiest, stupidest thing to add, and I'm like, I love it. It's
Dude,
the best.
And those fucking droids had Thrawn's insignia on their heads, by the way. There's a lot of shit going on there.
They know what they're doing.
Can we talk about the Twisted Tea beating?
What's the Twisted Tea beating?
Have you not seen the
Do we
video?
have to?
Have you not seen the video? You haven't seen the video?
No.
So this guy,
John Lackey's in a pleasant place. Don't disrupt his pleasantness.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stones.
So this guy was in a like a 7-Eleven or something, and just some skinny methy white dude, and the guy behind him was black and wearing a mask, and of course the guy who was screaming the N-word at him over and over again was not wearing a mask.
Sure, of course.
And the dude behind him was buying a Twisted Tea. And the white dude was sticking his face out, and he's like, go ahead and hit me, motherfucker. So the guy proceeded to hit him so fucking hard with the Twisted Tea in the face that the can broke in half and exploded all over
Jesus.
And then he jumped on top of him and just punched the shit out of him. It was hilarious. And like, it's become this like meme all over the fucking place about the Twisted Tea being like this fucking like, tool of violence. And I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up because it's popular right now, and a lot of Keith, who we were talking about earlier, made like a meme video where like the guy gets hit with it, and all of a sudden it lands in like a bucket of ice, and it's just this Twisted Tea over and over. It's like the best commercial you've ever seen. And it's starting to get like thousands of views, and
It's amazing.
is
I'm mad Twisted Tea hasn't capitalized on this.
Right?
But maybe haven't like done some marketing, you know? Like,
I know.
You're racist. Here, carry this can of Twisted Tea around with you. You'll feel a lot safer.
Right. I feel like Twisted Tea has a lot to gain from this right now for a good reason. And I feel like they should just get behind this guy. We're all behind him. Like, every one of us who's sharing memes are like, yeah, that was the right thing to do. Like, this is hilarious. That's why it's so successful. Because even the biggest assholes among us could look at that video and go, yeah, that guy literally has to be hit. He actually pointed at his own face and said, hit me right here.
I mean, I'm looking at a still of that guy, and yeah, that guy deserves to get hit, no matter what he said.
You can tell there's a bit of methamphetamines going on.
There's some things happening there, sure.
A little bit of meth. A little bit of meth.
He hit him hard. It was kind of funny.
It
was really funny, actually.
It was just perfect. It's just somebody asking for it, literally asking for it.
And then getting
things
it.
like that need to happen to these people who, like, to these fucking Karens. Not necessarily the violence, but like the coming, like the getting of what you got coming. That needs to happen more. I'm so happy that people are making memes of this and they're not yelling like, "Oh, that was so unnecessary," you know.
Yeah.
If like there's like this whole thing now where like people are like, "We can't hit the racists. We have to talk to them."
I agree with you.
We can't hit the Nazis. We have to talk with them. No, punch those motherfuckers out. Like, no.
Fuck
just
them.
hit them. Grab your Twisted Teas. Come on, everybody. Let's go.
Right. We've been going through this for like 80 years with these people and way longer than that. But I mean, Nazis specifically, I feel like they're sort of what's the word I'm looking for? There's sort of a very horrifying blip in recent history that sort of has continued to ripple through where we are right now. So fuck them. And I agree with you. I agree. Like, and we, you know, we've talked in the show, Kristen, you've been on the show several times where we've like, I at least have feverishly ranted about the difference between a Democrat and a progressive, or a liberal and a progressive. And that's where I think the line is too. I think liberals argue among themselves when they see like somebody like punch a Nazi. There's an argument that begins to happen of like, was that okay to do?
Yeah.
Is this all right? And they have this like, and I understand like from a certain point where you're like, I'm trying to be the bigger person, but there's also a point of reality where we go, hey, you know what? We kind of been tolerating these pieces of shit for a long time, and like enough's enough.
Yeah.
Like you need to fucking understand that like if you're going to provoke people and you're going to market yourself in such a way where you want to motivate people to oppress another people, that maybe you need to get fucked up for that.
Oh, 100%.
You know?
100%.
Mm-hmm.
We've been letting these people slide for far too long.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you remember way back, this was like maybe 2-3 years ago, there was a music venue that had a band. I don't know all the details, but I know it was like a band that had like Nazi imagery on it, and like this was like a big deal. It's like, what was it called? The bar, and it's in Clifton, and Dingbats, and everybody was all fight. They were fighting it. Like they shouldn't let this band.
Controversial show.
Oh my God, huge! They're like, no, this band shouldn't be there. Blah 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 blah. If I were the owner of that venue, full stop, I would have been like, nah, you're out. Like, you cannot. Like, you gotta go. Like, you can't be here.
Something like the owner wasn't aware that it was happening or something, and then other people were fired, or maybe the owner should have been aware. Or something like people, the argument always goes back and forth. Well, the owner should have been aware of it coming, and then other people that defend it are like, oh, the owner had no idea. Don't blame the owner. It was other people involved.
I mean, I get that, but I get it. Like, you have a business, but like at the same time, like if I own something, I'm not gonna let no motherfucking Nazi come through, say his or her shit that he wants to say, and we're cool and we're done. And I get my money and you leave. That's just not. Like,
that isn't big enough for the owner not to know what the fuck every show is.
Yeah, I mean,
there's also another thing here too, in that those people have remarketed the idea of freedom of speech to sort of fit what they want it to mean. And, I unfriended somebody off of Facebook recently because I posted a GIF image of like this guy like viciously knocking a Nazi out. And Facebook, first off, Facebook took my post down, which I thought was ridiculous.
Of course.
But not before some guy was like, imagine how morally bankrupt you must be to think it's okay to knock somebody out for their beliefs. And I said, imagine how ignorant you must be to think that this is somebody exercising their beliefs and not actionably taking to the streets to recruit people to oppress another fucking people. It's not as simple. It's not a freedom of speech. They're not holding parades for freedom of speech. They're holding parades to recruit people to adopt their ideas to fuck up another people. That's an action that's taking place. It's not a fucking... Listen, I'm white. I've heard white people my whole life say shit like, well, I don't agree with them, but I'll fight for their right to say whatever they want. Well, you know what I realized? They're not saying whatever they want. They're doing things, and this is part of what they do to make this fucking worse and harder for other people. It's not just saying an opinion, which, by the way, if you have the right to say an opinion, I have the right to fuck you up over it. So, like,
Facts.
It's not what it is. It's a fucking... When you hold your rally, whether you have a fucking permit or not, what's really happening is you're out there recruiting people's minds, and you're trying to turn them against another people. So that doesn't work in the same fucking category. That's not freedom of speech. That's you defending people who are trying to take away somebody else's freedom of speech, which is the fucking opposite of what you originally said you're trying to fucking do by defending their freedom to do what they want.
You're probably just part of a more socially acceptable religious outlet or something along those lines, some other group that has repressed people or is actively repressing people just in a different, more socially acceptable way, and accepting these Nazis as, well, that's my brother. I mean, right? Wouldn't that make sense? There's plenty of people. There's way more oppression than just Nazis is what I'm getting at. There's way more groups out there oppressing other people. And it's like, all right, so all right, we're talking about Nazis, punch Nazis in the face. What about other groups of people that are being oppressive? Should they deserve the same treatment, I would assume, right? Like,
yes.
In what context, though?
Well, there's plenty of religious outlets that are highly against Muslims. So should we start punching everybody who's against Muslims? I mean, how do we even root them out? How do we sniff them out to know exactly where all those pockets are and shit like that? It's got to be the same dilemma.
If you're bold enough to go outside and say with your whole chest, that you think Muslims should be exterminated, you think black people should be exterminated, gay people should be exterminated, you should be prepared to get clapped in the face with a twisted tea can. That's just my opinion.
Nazis that aren't being so advertised and vocal about it. I think that probably the bulk of the Nazi population are people who keep it under wraps because they know.
Oh yeah, we saw that in 2016. That's why Trump won.
You know,
that's why I got 74 million votes this fucking time.
Oh yeah, that's why. I mean, I don't know. Me personally, it's weird. Like my experience is kind of strange because I grew up. My dad is black. He's a black Puerto Rican, so he's Afro-Latino. I grew up obviously very white, so I passed for white. But these people, like, I know these people that are racist, and they go through society. They don't really, like, you don't know them, but like it's a weird feeling you get. You see someone and like they're like, I don't really want my kid to study with your kid, or like, you know, I don't want this person in my neighborhood, and like you hear that. And I've heard it from both ends, where I've heard white people say,
nobody wants me in their neighborhood. I can tell you that.
Me neither. But anyways, I mean, I've heard both ends of the spectrum of it, because I've heard people who have been bold and comfortable with their racism say shit to me, and I'm like, oh, that's not cool. And I've heard people just be outright racist to people in my family. So I understand like the people that are out there, they are strong in numbers, but like for the most part, they don't really do anything, I guess. But if you're outside and you're like, we should murder all the black people and murder all the Hispanic people, all the Latin people, we should murder all the Muslims, like, you should shut up. So, you should be afraid to say that. That's my thing.
Here's a philosophical question for you then. Mm-hmm. So if somebody is rooted out as a Nazi, but they never advertised that they were a Nazi, they were never out in the public as a Nazi, should they still get punched in the face? Because there's plenty of people who are racist that should also deserve to get punched in the face. But if they're keeping it under wraps and they're not bothering anybody, you see the dilemmas. I don't think that's necessarily true, though. I don't think you would not be bothering anybody if you felt that strongly. No, there was a cop that he turned out he was a Klan member or whatever, but people didn't know it for like 30 years, and he ran through the police department.
But he definitely was out there doing things that he probably wasn't supposed to be, treating people differently because of the color of their skin. Like, there's no way that you can have those types of views and live your life in a way that you're not expressing your views.
He was probably bothering people. Yeah. I
100%.
100%. Not to mention the fact if he had kids or family or cousins or nephews or nieces, he's passing that shit on. Down. He's passing his shit on to his younger partners who he's influencing and mentoring. It's ridiculous.
But I'm just saying, though, like, you know, if there's a bunch of people that live their life without necessarily just keeping to themselves about their bigotry or whatever, like, and if they get rooted out somehow, some way, shape, or form, that, you know, it comes to light that they are that, you know.
How do they get rooted out if they're keeping their racism to themselves?
That's the thing, right? How do they get rooted out? Right. There's another dilemma, right? Yeah. No,
it's not really a dilemma. It seems like there's an answer in front of us.
You can root out racism probably easier. Well, you can root out either one. I mean, really, all you got to do is just talk to people for a while. They usually show their colors pretty quickly.
Oh, yes. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that you can be a bigot and keep that under wraps, because you're going to act differently around someone that you feel should not exist.
Right. You still feel something. You're trying to gain some type of connection.
If you're homophobic, you're not going to be comfortable seeing a gay couple walk down the street, hold hands. You're going to have some type of reaction to that. So I don't necessarily think that you can keep being a racist or a bigot under wraps. I think it's acceptable.
The people who are oppressing the gay communities, you know, should we punch them in the face the same as Nazis?
I mean,
right?
Yes.
Where's the line?
So I agree. But Stone says so you're trying to like take one thing and bubble it all down. Like the video I posted was a guy with a fucking armband on with a fucking swastika out passing out pamphlets and fucking yelling at people in the street, and he got his ass fucking knocked out. So he got an appropriate public response to appropriate public nuisance that he was, you know, committing. Whether or not people need to be punched in the face, I mean, like, I don't know. Because I think it depends on what how can I put this? I don't know that I'm the right person to answer, but all I can say is that I grew up with a lot of white people, and I saw a lot of people have a lot of awakenings, and I saw a lot of people have those awakenings at different ages and different stages in their lives, despite what their parents may have taught them was normal or true. So I think that there are some people that just don't know. They just don't understand that the things that they say and think. There are people who think racist things that don't know that they're racist because, as Sarah put it a few weeks ago, there are people who think things are normal. And if something is normal, you don't even consider whether or not it's right or wrong or true or false because you've been told it's normal. So a lot of people, they don't even question whether or not what they think or what they're doing is fucking wrong. They're not even sure that they're or don't even know that they're a racist. The problem is when you try to have a conversation and you try to point it out, and then they get all fucking crazy and defensive, and then they vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Well, some people some people fear criticism, especially when in the upper tax brackets. Criticism becomes more and more of a concern. They don't want to be made fun of. That's actually one of their biggest. When you get into like the super rich and super wealthy, their biggest fear is being made fun of by poor people.
And plus, they've never had to justify anything they've ever felt, right? Like it's just that's their life and that's how it's been, and no one's ever questioned them on it. And why would you surround yourself with someone that would even question you on it? So that's why you never really had to. It's fucked up.
Yeah, and if you grow up in that situation, more than likely you've never been somewhere where you were introduced to someone who would have any reason to say, hey, that's fucked up. Like, you probably are just surrounded by family members that are all fucking racist too.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Facts.
And the weird thing is when you meet someone that's like so wholeheartedly will say, I am not a racist. I'm so fucking offended that you would ever say that to me. And I know that they mean it, that like they believe it, because the things that they say and think that are clearly racist are just things that they were taught Black people do, or things that, and things that the news told them, these are the dangerous people. And so they don't interpret that as something racist. That's different from racist. Racist is you're screaming racial slurs to someone. That's that's racist in their head. But like having these weird biases against people that you don't know, like they don't even interpret that there is a bias because to them, those people just are dangerous. That's just the natural fucking state of it. You don't question shit that's just normal and natural until someone points it out. But like those people, dude, that like so wholeheartedly believe they're not racist are so much scarier to me than people that are like, fuck yeah, I don't like those people. They're so much more worrying to me. It's like a whole other fucking group.
Yeah. I think it's kind of weird because I personally, if I am in a situation where somebody is inherent or overtly biased, I try to point it out, and I would say 9 times out of 10 the reaction that I get is, oh my god, I didn't know that, can you explain to me? And I usually am like, here's your explanation. But those people who are like, I'm not a racist, how dare you say something about like blah, 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 blah. Those people are definitely more, they're not open to hearing another perspective. They're not open to hearing or learning about another person's experience or learning about history or anything like that. They're just set in their ways and they're right. And that to me is very, very worrying, because you can't have a conversation with someone like that.
Exactly.
You're just not going to get anywhere.
Because you just sound offensive. You're coming from a perspective where you come off as attacking them for being a racist, which they absolutely are not in their mind. So there is no conversation to be had. Racism looks like one thing. It looks like you're wearing a hood or you're...
Capitalize. Are you racist if you capitalize on a system that's built on racism?
You're
That's a
racist,
good
I think,
question.
if you're quiet about it, or if you're utterly accepting. So, like, for example, well, I said on the last show, I said if you're a real progressive, you would fight for fairness for people, even if the unfairness is benefiting you, specifically for for unfair reasons. So I think that those people who are screaming for the system to be fair for all might be benefiting in ways that they didn't ask for, and I don't think that necessarily makes you a racist, but I do think that you need to wake up if you are benefiting and you can't admit that another people are not benefiting the way you are. Even
Right.
in terms of
I
even in
look
terms
at,
of social order, like, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
look at Trump's,
I'm not getting followed around a fucking, if I walk
Trump's
around, you know what I mean? What's up?
Trump's real estate, he pushed out, the black families to try and get white people in there to up the price of his apartments. Now, he's clearly racist, but I don't know if that move specifically was racist, but it was racist. So does that move,
Capitalizing on it means that you're okay with it, and if you're okay with it and you're capitalizing on it, you're something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I mean, racist
I
or not, your indifference to it is
I would
is
imagine
horrible.
that happens like a lot, personally.
It's weird that you say Trump because like I grew up in New York City, so my experience with Trump, like his name was everywhere. But I also had a friend who grew up, like one of my best friends grew up on the Upper East or Upper West Side, 110th Street, and she lived in these apartments that were Section 8 apartments, and they were really, really nice. And it was right across the street from Central Park, but it was a shitty fucking neighborhood. I mean, this was like, they were popping off in the streets at like all hours of the day. And it was probably like when I graduated high school, so like 2011, 2010, when Trump bought all of those buildings out. And that basically forced everyone who grew up in those buildings out. And most of those people were Latino, Black, or another, or whatever minority they were, forced them out. And a lot of those people just left New York City. Anytime Trump put his name on something and bought a building, the poor people had to move out. The majority of those poor people were Black or Hispanic. And I think like it's so weird because I know the Trump that's like, we know him as the racist. We've known him as a racist for so long because his brand is just getting rid of the fucking riffraff, which is code for getting rid of all the minorities and putting in the rich white folk. But that's not necessarily a Trump thing. That is a United States anywhere you go.
Right, that's a lot of people.
thing.
So I would imagine, that's just one part of the system that everybody can refer to. So if you have an individual that's just doing that and not doing all the other things that Trump did, does that make that individual a racist person? If they see an opportunity to profit off of it, does that inherently make them racist?
Can I just say that it does make me worry about them on an even bigger level?
Mm-hmm.
Like, not just that they're racist, but that they're...
some people are motivated by just capital, man. Like,
But if you're motivated by just capital to the point where you're willing to fuck over an entire people for it, like...
There's plenty of capitalists that are like that.
That's not just capitalist prowess. Like, that's
to Stone's point, though, I think what he's trying to say is...
Oh, Rob Marchie's here.
Hi, by the way. To Stone's point, I think that there's a lot of people out there, Stones, and maybe you disagree with me, but that those people, that argument is, that's blatant... what do you want to call it? Blatant disregard for how those people ended up in those positions.
You're a dark being I don't discount that, but plenty of people in the money
No,
market.
I'm saying, let's say you and I partnered up and we went into an area to gentrify it, right? Or we went into an area like, think back to what Harlem looked like about maybe 15 years ago, and then Harlem went through a little bit more of a kind of a gentrification movement. It's changed a little bit, but let's say we bought up a bunch of fucking houses. You and I bought 6 or 7 buildings worth of places like Trump did, and did not update them, didn't keep them up to par or whatever.
Yeah.
But we still made our money off of Section 8. We made our money off of whatever we needed to do to fuck the system in a way that we would get our finances back from the federal government or the state government. And it, to us, right, it's not that we were racist, it's that we bought into a hot item, the way that people rip people off in like Wolf of Wall Street penny stock fucking shit. You know, we look at it, we say, well, it's not our fault. It's
to push them in there. They'll raise your property tax.
No. We went in there and we bought a building that we knew was going to get fucking money regardless of who lived in there. It's not our fault that it happens to be Black, Latino, Hispanic fucking populations. And it's renovated later on down. Because you and I don't take $1.5 million fucking loan out and go fix the apartments up, we are by definition racist. You know, like we because we didn't help out the minority population that lived there. And
it's tough,
I think there's a real fine line. Great. I'm not justifying it, because I do believe in my whole heart that it is done on purpose, right? But I think that if you go into those areas as financial investors, knowing how those people ended up in those areas, and when Trump bought those properties out, he knew wholeheartedly who the fuck lived in those areas. He didn't. It's not
there was a bunch of old people living in his buildings paying like $150 a month, and then they were afraid to say anything when shit went wrong because they're on fixed incomes, and he was getting $600-700 a month for the same fucking units all throughout the building. And
some of them weren't minority populations. He was just being ageist at that point. He didn't give a fuck. He was looking to make a buck off of those properties.
That's what I'm saying. So that singular act there, because you know that there's profit being made under a racist system, does that inherently make you racist in the process?
If you're buying into it to make a profit into something that for the last 60 years has been reaping the benefits off of lower income fucking areas. Because really, after the 50s, that white flight movement left all of those areas kind of like prey to bankers and fucking people who wanted to get in those real estate investments. They made hand over fist fucking money.
Oh, dude, in the 50s, real estate was super racist. It's racist now.
Oh, without a doubt. I have a question for everybody here, because I've toyed around with this a million fucking times, and I think I ask people this often when we're talking about the race issue. When it comes to the term racism, and I thought about this from like a socio-political. I thought about it from a kind of a. I did a lot of research on Herbert Spencer. Right, I spent a long time researching Herbert Spencer, and Herbert Spencer is the guy who came up with the idea of social Darwinism and attaching it to almost every facet of American life. The idea that through social Darwinism, you were not bred to be somebody who was going to be successful. It wasn't in your DNA to be successful. And social Darwinism got attached to people of minority populations in mass because they were considered to be the lower level of evolution. Right. So from, the 1880s, 1890s through the Gilded Age and the arrival of mass capitalism in America, there's been this tie-in between who was inherently unable to progress or make a life for themselves, whereas the white populations, whether they come from Ireland or England or have ancestry in Western or Eastern Europe, could work their ass off and eventually get there, and everybody else would get weeded out. But my curiosity came in the idea of the actual terminology, and Rick, I'll turn to you a little bit on this because you're the linguistics guy, you're the English guy. So when it comes down to the breakdown of words, I turned to Rick for the English definition of it, but I've always kind of looked at it from a sociological aspect. When you talk about racism and you say, well, this guy's racist or that guy's racist, I have, for the last 25 years of my life, through education and research and shit, been very inherently pissed off about what racism really is. And the term racism to me, and feel free to debate it with me or whatever, but I think at its core, if you buy into the fact that race is a real thing and not a man-made construct, and you buy into the idea... I heard in the TED Talk,
it actually goes back to one guy with a marketing campaign. Like, somebody was actually able to name a name in a TED talk and like rooted everything back to this one motherfucker.
Well, there's a guy that did research on the areas of Hispaniola and Cuba after doing research.
Right.
After doing research on the Haitian Revolution, when there was a historian, and historians were quite racist in the early 20th century, but when they talked about the Haitian Revolution, that revolution was key because you have a revolution in a predominant Caribbean place made up of predominantly black people, but also a high Caucasian French gentry, which had been combined with black French gentry and then a large slave population. So after Toussaint Louverture had this huge revolution, they started to break down what level of black was black. It still exists today. In fact, Vox did a great piece on it about 2 years ago on the separation between Saint-Domingue and Santo Domingo, so the Spanish-owned territory and the French-owned territory. It's a really great 20-minute clip for anybody who wants to go check it out. But the separation of those colonized, somebody had written, what the difference was between an octoroon, a quadroon, a Negro, like the breakdown of how much black someone had in their skin and whether they were traditional Caribbean islanders, whether they're traditional French, or whether they were mulattoes. And it got intense. They broke it down into like 50 different genres of race. And that's where a lot of that started to get bought into. Of course, America buys into it greatly and applies it to its legislation and its laws and kinds of refers to people as aliens, and they separated through race. But I feel like if you buy into the idea that man-made construct of what race is, that people are different because of the level of melanin in their skin, you by pure thought are a racist, right? We add the ist to anything that people believe. So if you buy into something, you are ist. You're a traditionalist, right? If you believe in that, you're a conservatist. If you believe and harbor that idea. So if you believe in racism, if you think that it exists as a thing, not that it doesn't, but if you believe that there are black people and red people and yellow people, and they come from different things and are made up of different DNA because their melanin is different, then you are by definition a racist. So if you which means that like 95% of the population.
Well, all right. So what you're saying is that anybody who chooses to capitalize on that racist system is inherently racist. Then
No. I'm not talking about inherently racist. I'm saying that anybody, period, that believes that, and I think that that's the root of what the problem is in the world in terms of racism. If you buy into that idea that races, right? We're a species. We're a species, and that's it. That we're human. That's
right.
That's
it. But in order to capitalize on a racist economic, real estate system, No,
Stone. Let me stop you. I'm not talking about capitalizing on anything economically, and I'm not talking about categorizing people in ways.
That's my question, though. But that's been my question this whole time. If you and I thought that you had gotten to that point that yes, that if you believe that it exists, therefore that what you're doing in the real estate market by gentrifying an area, and which just means making it rich white people, is that are you a racist? I thought you got.
Well, I think at that point, if you're dressing the place up and that the people living in that area could and will never be able to afford to live in your newly gentrified area. I mean, don't get me wrong. Look at Asbury Park turned itself around over the past 10 to 12 years because of the gay community in Avon and the gay community around the region. They put money into the place. It's no secret that Asbury did that, but Asbury also, by doing that, pushed a black element across Springfield Avenue and put them into an area where they had already been in the 50s and 60s, and now have made it an area where there's low income housing on one side of the fucking town, and the other side of the town is these, trendy ass hipsters and fucking people with money that can go in and eat dinner at those restaurants and go to those beaches and spend all the money to live in fucking 3-story condominiums on the water and shit like that. And that isn't traditional Asbury. That's something Asbury has gone through ups and downs in over the course of time, and people knew that they were changing it for the better because it would be an appeal economically. But what it did was something that happened in the 50s and 60s, what caused the fucking race riots in 67 in Asbury. So when those types of things take place, I think in that regard, Stones, yeah, I think that they know what they're fucking doing. I know that they're going to make money for the town, but they also know that in order to make money for the town, you got to get these Black and Hispanic people out off the fucking boardwalk and move them away. I hate to say it so bluntly, but it's frustrating living in a tourist-based county and be next to another tourist-based county that literally refers to it in doublespeak, where it talks, in the legislation that gets passed in the town hall meetings, look at let me give you an example. So the marijuana bill, right? The marijuana bill that everybody was hyped up on, that Murphy had passed and they were on his ass about, and it finally went through at the referendum. Every town in the fucking 2 counties, with the exception of like 2, were like, there ain't no fucking way we're selling weed in these towns. Because they didn't want an element to come into that area and buy weed, right? We're talking about the 2 biggest heroin fucking induced counties in the fucking state. But we're worried about selling marijuana at head shops because they don't want fucking Black populations and Hispanic populations coming down here and buying weed and getting high. And in the meantime, you've got Jersey Shore motherfuckers puking in the fucking streets and fist fighting and pissing on fucking front lawns. But when it comes down to legislation, the taxpayers don't want to see a dark element walking through their fucking streets because they're inherently terrified of those people. Because
so is that based on? I mean, it seems like it has a racist element to it. So the people enforcing those things are, actively knowing that there's the racist part of it. Could you consider that, as a racist person?
I would go so far as to say that, yeah, particularly in the counties we live in, 100%, dude. 100%.
Yes, dude. Saying basically making laws so that way Black people don't come to your town. Yeah, that's not inherently that's like outright fucking racist.
All right, so governments are trying to always acquire more money because more money means more power, and if the real estate system if the attraction to the wealth is to the white people, then to attract the wealth you have to have a racist element. But does that make you racist even though you're just pursuing it for the money?
Well, when you could be the most non-racist fucking legislator, right? And know that the only way you're going to get large scale money put into a community is to attract white racist owners. They don't want to live on a fucking dead end cul-de-sac with 3 Black neighbors. They don't want to do that. That's something that they don't want. And what's fucking jaw-dropping to me, right, is if you had logical people who were intelligent enough that know how budgets work and they understand state governments and they understand state budgets. When you use 3 or 4 states that legalized well before New Jersey even put it on the fucking docket, and their budgets went through 13 billion fucking dollars in 12 months because of legal weed sales, and you have counties that are struggling to get money, and then you start using that idea of, well, even racism, it ties itself to the real estate market. The real estate market could fucking die tomorrow and the weed market would pick it up and flip it over on its fucking head. But you don't want to do that because it's going to attract people. And you don't even know that. You haven't even done the fucking research on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, it's going to attract so many more white people. But like, that doesn't matter. Like it only matters because
I got to tell you, because when we legalized in a lot of other places, the market became so fucking flooded with product that it became more of a commodity. And now you're dealing with people who basically are living a lifestyle as if they own chicken coops. There's like no profit in it. They're in mountains of debt and they're just barely paying their bills, if they're paying.
Well, that's not totally why though. The reason that they are like that is, one, the government kept it so strict because of the federal versus state laws that they have to pay their fucking bills in cash 24 hours a fucking day, because no state legislature will collect taxes and the federal legislature can't be paid through tax revenue made through drug sales. They refuse to let it happen. So when people have to pay their monthly and annual taxes, they have to fill a fucking briefcase up with rolls of cash, which means you can't write it off. You can't use it as escrow. You can't, you have to literally show up at the goddamn county seat and give them a pile of cash to pay your bills off. And when the states look at it and say, well, we'll open this up to people who have mass corporate investment versus you and I who want to start a fucking weed farm in our backyard, it turns to corporate capitalism. And I mean, that's where we're headed with weed ultimately anyway. Once Big Pharma gets their hands on it and they start to implement all their bullshit, if the federal government passed that, the whole market would be destroyed. But the problem with it is that I'm talking about locally here, You know, in a state that is fucking hurt, and we're a fucking bullshit ass, broke ass state. We have been for decades, and that's life altering in this state. The sale of weed in this state is a massive, massive revenue growth. And
in the hands of a few. In the hands of a few.
let it be in a few, dude. Let it be in a few. If it's gonna lower taxes or help the payments of the bills in people in New Jersey, let them grow piles of it in Cumberland and Gloucester fucking counties and truck it to fucking different distributors. I feel like there's so many different options. And listen, what would you rather? Would you rather rather 5 head shops in each town selling different types of weed, or 1 head shop for that matter selling high-priced fucking marijuana? Or would you rather a liquor store every 3 fucking feet deteriorating a community because everybody's a fucking knockdown alcoholic?
Hey man, dude, I went out last night and then one liquor store was closed and I walked across the street, the other liquor store was open. I'm pretty happy about that shit. Don't fucking talk shit about that.
I'm saying that the idea of areas being inherently racist for the sake of safeguarding their communities is a massive fucking thing. And it's a matter of developers and real estate owners buying into that and knowing that they can make a huge profit off of keeping certain people out, and they think that that's keeping certain people out. I think the irony in it is that the massive heroin buying population in our county versus what would happen if these are people who believe that marijuana is a gateway drug to heroin use. You know what I mean? It's the lack of knowledge and the lack of understanding of what's going on. It's you know what it comes down to, and it's something I've been saying a lot, and it may be ageist. It's the fact that every politician that I know that is of any kind of strength or power is above the age of fucking 60 and has no idea what's actually going on in the real goddamn world. And I'll say that till I'm fucking dead, dude. That it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican. A 63-year-old Democrat or Republican does nothing for somebody who is 20 fucking years old in the state of New Jersey, or 30 or 40 years old in the state of New Jersey, dude.
Not typically. Not typically.
But think about it, man. They were in their 20s in the 1960s, and this shit's still fucking happening.
They were in their 20s in the 1960s as products of ex-World War II veterans who came back and made a fucking living off of growing up at a time when the economy was the best thing they've ever fucking had.
Bunch of Nixon babies.
I think there's a mass generational gap that you're going to see changing greatly over it's happening very much at a snail's pace in the center and lower half of New Jersey, but it's something that in the country as a whole you're starting to see people like, and I hate to refer to like AOC, but like when you have people that are getting involved at a young age and they're speaking more to the terminology that people their own age understand, that's a threat to conservatism. Yeah. And it's a threat, and it's a massive threat to conservative liberalism as well. And that's a term that no one dares use, is the idea that conservative liberalism
I love that, Rob. Dude, I love that fucking term. Man.
Conservative liberalism is a real.
Dude, I know exactly what the fuck you're talking about, because there's someone that I've seen recently that I know argue and call themselves liberal, and they're like, it like shocked me, because it was the first time I realized that people that are like die-hard centrist, like will die on the altar of the Democratic Party, and whatever they says is the way it is, like call themselves a liberal just and mean it, like believe that they meant it, like really fucking shocked me.
Oh yeah. They're actually like, you have a conversation with them, and I consider myself somewhat.
And they call progressives communists, and it's like,
oh yeah,
liberal, like,
dude, it's fucking nuts, because what you realize is that progressives are actually quite middle of the fucking ground most of the time. They're not extreme. Like I think for the most part, I think this is going to sound crazy, but I actually think that Bernie Sanders is logical enough to where he's not what everybody thinks he is. He's just a logical fucking thinking human being. He just sounds extreme because conservativist kind of politicians and political people and hardcore Republicans, they don't realize that a lot of those old school Republicans like you said, were born in the fucking 50s and 60s, dude, they smoked weed, they did fucking drugs, they fucking hung out. They look at themselves literally as fiscally responsible.
They did
Like,
80s cocaine.
They did real coke. They did like fucking.
They had
coke.
70s. They had 70s discos.
And listen, at the end of the day, I see this all the time online because I got two friends that share this shit all the time, and I get a kick out of it. But the concept, and Rick, you're friends with one of them. The term yuppie, right, that our boy uses constantly, I find fucking hysterical because he hates all politicians, and all he ever talks about is the classist idea. The notion that at the end of the day, these yuppie fucks, whether they come from the 70s, 80s, 90s, it doesn't matter. They made money. They made your fucking money 75 times over. And if you think they really give a shit about blacks, Hispanics, Latinos, fucking immigrant workers, people coming, like nobody gives a fuck about those.
When they do these real estate deals, then is what you're saying.
Well, are they? Well, no. At the end of the day, if they can
racist.
Stones, you're just gonna have to live with the fact that they're fucking racist. So
there's a lot more. At the end of the day, Stones, at the end of the day, there's a lot more fucking racist people than are willing to admit it, but there's a lot more racist people that honestly don't know that they're racist.
Right.
We were just talking about that before you got here. We were just talking about people that don't know that they're racist and how much more dangerous they are.
Because it's so ingrained into their whole way of being. There's just that's what it is. That's what they know. That's their entire life. And it's not racist because that's how I was raised.
John, have you ever met Rob? Rob, have you ever met John Lacki?
I don't believe so. John, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Rob?
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Rob is a member of Awesome Talk. John Lacki is Awesome Talk alumni.
John, to your point, I think John's 100% right in the fact that even the people that I know, like, I used to have conversations all the time with my parents, about just passive conversation. I mean, just about things that were going on, and here or there. And my mother, my God rest her, my mother was the most non-racist human being alive, but she also grew up as a product of a household that was racist by nature because of the time. And a comment that you just made was that that's the house they grew up in, and they just kind of accepted that, and the words were okay to use, and the stereotypes were okay to kind of exhibit, and they saw it in the areas that they lived in. And I'm really tired of hearing that. I'm really tired of hearing that as a cop-out. You know what I mean? And they won't say it, but you know it. If you're someone who's like, listen, I mean, I say shit all the time in comedy, in jokes and shit where I'm like, I don't care if that's racist because it's funny. We're all laughing about it. But those people actually say it, and they take those stereotypes to reality and say, well, no, that's how I interpret all these fucking people.
Doing that type of comedy, man.
Yeah, but comedy has changed recently in that your level of responsibility toward it is starting to change. Like whether we like it or not, I think.
Well, I think Rick, the funny part is that the comedy isn't comedy about. And Mike Pepe's here, so like, as a comedian, Mike, like,
Mike Pepe's awesome, dude.
Yeah, Mike, feel free to write in the chat about this. But like, when I'm not talking about cracking jokes in terms of making fun of people because of their background ethnographically. I'm talking about like
the laughter and the pain.
I'm actually the jokes.
I get it. I understand.
Well, no, not even that, Mike. The joke that I usually make, the jokes that I make are jokes that are in complete and utter, what do you want to call it? Like condescension / joking in the way that I'm speaking like someone who would be racist for the fact that I find it ridiculous that that's still a fucking thing.
So the way I usually word it, Rob, is like this. If somebody is doing it right, what they're doing is they're making fun of the ignorance of the type of person who would say that. They're not making fun of the person who they're making fun of. So there takes a level of critical thinking that goes into a certain joke. And that's why sometimes when people react to shock comedy, I have a strange reaction to it, because sometimes I go, okay, well, and I only think it's because in a weird way I'm well versed in comedy, I guess.
Right.
Like, I know that sometimes there are things that involve critical thinking, And there are some things that have a
Yes,
certain
that-
shock value that are supposed to be sort of like a reverse comedy, like what we're
don't
talking
you think
about.
that anything? Don't you think that any joke that is made, like that's why I think people who don't find George Carlin funny have no critical thinking skills. Like if you like that
Right.
kind of comedy takes a level of intelligence where you're like, it's not just a fucking
Sure.
punchline, and it's not something to just offend people because
So,
hey, it's
so I have a
offensive and I'm
question
on
for
a
you.
stage.
I have a question for you. I love George Carlin. Okay.
Right.
I grew up with George Carlin. I memorized entire acts by George Carlin. By the time I was 10 years old, I knew them.
Sure.
Recently, I was thinking about George Carlin, and I was thinking about some things that he said over the years, and I wondered if he were younger and starting again, would he have reframed some of the things that he said? So, for example, he said people said you can't joke about rape. He said, I can prove you can joke about it. You can joke about anything you want. Picture Porky Pig raping Elmer Fudd. Right? So when I listen to George Carlin say that, what I say is he's not making fun of that. What he's doing is he's spinning it around, and you have to be able to think about what he's doing in order for it to be funny. Right? He's not making fun of the act, but he's using it as more of an intellectual jumping off point. But at the same time, I don't think that people nowadays see things that way. I think that exactly. I think that a lot of people.
Here's the question.
Oh, no, hold on.
What's the question?
I think that there's a perspective now that's been put out into the world where I wonder if George Carlin would rethink what he said, because too many people now hear that and then they think, oh, it's okay for me to joke about this then. George Carlin said it's okay, so it's okay for me to make jokes. So people make crass jokes, shitty jokes, unintellectual jokes, and they go, oh yeah, but I'm just kidding, and I know that that's okay.
Well, look at what Mike just wrote in the chat. He just said like how Bill Burr says misogynistic things, but it's more tongue in cheek, and you know he doesn't mean any of it.
Okay, so hold on. Not to cut you off, but what we're talking about here is George Carlin can say that because George Carlin was awake enough and intelligent enough to make those jokes in a way where we knew who he was. We knew he was a humanitarian. We knew that George Carlin loved everyone because of the way he could do it. And what I worry about is that some of the things he said have given license to people who are not as intelligent as George Carlin, so they think they get it but don't, and now they're applying it in ways that are shitty.
Yeah,
I
but
think
you're also applying how you feel about George Carlin and how smart you think he is to how everyone else should feel, or else they just don't get it. Like, what if someone that was raped decided, well, he might be a smart guy, but that doesn't mean that I'm not offended that someone thinks this is something worth making a laughing matter. Like, that's just as valid of a point as that George Carlin is a funny guy, so he can craft a great joke around rape. Like,
Sure.
I'm sure he can, but that's not.
But I think
that doesn't
I
mean
think
that people not deep thinkers because they decided that their emotions took them in a different direction based on their experiences.
I think it's quite literally a gap. I think there's, the same way that Bill Burr, I think Bill Burr has alienated a large chunk of a population that like comedy because of Bill Burr's, content. I think that George Carlin, likewise in the 70s, George Carlin probably, I mean, you won't notice it, right? Because we weren't seeing what was happening socially with that. George Carlin could pack a fucking arena, but I'm sure in today, I think that also goes back, Rick, to today. If he was a comedian now, okay, and he had all of this, because this is unending fucking material for George Carlin, by the way.
But hold on, but just to bring it full circle, my point was going to be if he were that young now making those jokes, I don't think he would have made them.
I think he would have been smart enough and a lot more selective in a socio-politically correct era. George Carlin's the kind of person where he doesn't give a fuck, but at the same time, he was very, very aware of the topics that you could not go into. And he also lived at a time where social media didn't exist. And I think that's a big power player today. You can ruin someone overnight. I mean, any of us could say anything on here at any point in time and face repercussions, not physical or emotional repercussions, but we could certainly have people defame us.
Away for sure, man.
Sure,
Our opinions,
dude.
there's definitely shade. Fuck
Sure.
yeah.
Now none of us are that popular or famous on this fucking show. You know what I mean?
Well, I
But
think
like,
we also all have to accept it to be on this show. I mean, for fuck's sakes, we have to know that some of the shit that we say is going to have some controversial.
I also
backlash.
feel like at its heart, I feel like at its heart, for the most part, the things we talk about in here are because we're trying to dig to a better truth that never harms another person.
Better understanding.
And I think that if what we're doing and what we're saying is the intent is to never harm another person and do better for others by whatever we talk about, then that's a good thing, and I think that should matter.
But other people still find it distasteful, and that's completely acceptable, and that's fine for them.
That's
and
okay.
That's why I'm not going to take it to heart if there is shade thrown my way. I expect it to happen.
Keith said that everyone basically takes art differently. And that's the point. Is like you can't just assume that people aren't critically thinking because they take it different. Like, dude, I have a show that is about chronic illness, and it's the only show that I actually try not to curse on, because I know that there's a large population of people that listen to that show that are much older, and people that want their parents to listen to it because I'm describing something that they're dealing with. So I purposely don't curse because I want to make sure it's open to the widest range of people. And I got a fucking comment once on my show that they wished my language was better so they could show it to someone. And I said, I think it was damn once in one episode. And that was all it took. So yeah, it's like totally up for interpretation what people are going to have a fucking problem with.
Well, I think, Sarah, at that point that you just made before you said that about the whole art thing is that's the point, right? Artists make art so that you can critique it, you can hate it, it brings out emotions, you can love it, you can fucking wrap your head around it. It can instigate thought, it can bring about change, it can do all kinds of things. And I think that the point of that is that we could talk about whatever we want on the show. George Carlin can present whatever he wants. Bill Burr can go up there and do what he wants. And the whole, at the end of the day, the whole point is to ignore the criticism and ignore the gratification of it, right? We're not here to fucking please other people, but we are certainly here to help and bring information to other people and kind of interpret it from a perspective so that people can take it home and critically think about it. And I think that's what comedy is about. While there's comedy to it, George Carlin was a satirist. Like everything he was talking, like that kind of, I think satire at this point in time has lost its niche.
A bit it has,
almost.
Yeah.
It has lost its sting. I used to love Saturday Night Live until Saturday Night Live became news. Yeah. It became real life. We're not even playing satire anymore. We're literally watching what I see on television is what shows up in the first opening cold act of SNL on Saturday nights. And it's like, shit, this is going to be material for them in 48 fucking hours. And it's literally them just playing it out. There's no joke to it. It's literally what fucking happened, and satire is something that George Carlin lived off of, but I think, Rick, to your point, I think there are very minimal comments that he made over his career and lifetime because the great thing about him is not I love his comedy, but I love more so than anything his interviews. When they interview him, yes. when he's been interviewed by people, he
his interview with Jon Stewart is amazing.
One of the greatest things I've ever watched in my life, dude. Because his jokes that are on stage, the punchlines aren't there. It's the same comment, but he's explaining it like, listen, if you got offended by this, you don't understand it, then you're not reading a book or you're not paying attention to what the fuck is going on.
Sure.
He wasn't out there to crack a joke to offend or ignite somebody. He was out there to tell a joke, to be like, can you believe, that this is a thing? And I think to a certain level of critical thinking, for people who understand the world around them, which is probably about 25% of the American population, more or less the world, that comedy sits with people. And you look at it and you go, that's some funny shit, because at the end of the day, I just need to laugh about it. They're not laughing because it's that funny of a joke. They're laughing at it because I think that people that tell comedy like that, the people that find them truly funny, is that they're actually laughing at the 90% of the people that don't get it. They're laughing because they know that it takes a certain level of intelligence and understanding to be able to get the fucking punchline, to be able to get the joke at the end of the day, dude. So even if he told that joke that you referenced then or now, I think the only difference is that George Carlin at say 60 fucking 8 would have looked at the crowd and been like, "Go fuck yourself if you don't think this is fucking."
But here's
funny.
the thing. But here's the thing. I used to agree with that, Rob. But now I'm not sure that I do. Because I feel like sorry, can you turn your? I feel
it
like
sounded
that,
like when you said it. It sounded like when you said that when you asked the question but made the statement. It sounded like you were saying that because he made that joke, people took that for the next 10 to 15 years and interpreted it as I can joke about rape.
No, yes, I'm telling you, I think there are people who do that. Now, so here's the question then. The question is not whether or not people think that that's okay, because there are people who think that that's okay. I've heard people make crass, shitty jokes and go, "Hey, I'm just kidding," and it's like, yeah, but you're also a scumbag, so I have to take that into consideration as well.
Well, that's you knowing them. That's also you knowing them personally when they make that
absolutely.
joke. There's, that little nuance is a little bit different.
But they also mingle and they put that shit out in the world and they put it out to their kids and their friends and their fucking brothers and their cousins and all that other shit.
Right,
and,
right.
You know what I mean? So it's pollution.
We're human beings are just a virus, bro.
My point is this. George Carlin can only be as woke and intelligent as he could be in the time that he was in. And I do feel like, based on the level of intelligence that he showed in his comedy, that if he were delivering the same messages now, they would be so much stealthier.
Yes.
I feel like his stealth would have carried over, and he would have made those same points. I think at the time they were harsh because there was a time in comedy where you would say the trigger word, and that was the thing that woke up the person who was listening to the comedy. That was the that was the word that made the person think critically about it. Now people hear it and they go, okay, well, that's becoming hack shit because that's shock comedy. I don't need to be woken up by that anymore. I need to laugh at something that's smarter than that.
So you're saying he would have adapted with the times.
So comedy in general, stand-up comedy has become so much more intelligent, and Bill Burr thrives because when he talks about things, even if they're offensive, you know what he's really doing? He's criticizing his own ignorance. And because he does things like that, it's the same thing Patrice O'Neal did. And I think in comedy, when you do that, people are living a certain awakening with you that is,
I totally get what you're saying, but I don't feel that way about Patrice O'Neal or Bill Burr or what's the dude's name that takes his shirt off?
Bert Kreischer?
Yeah.
I don't know him.
So he does a lot of
Wilder.
He does a lot of shit based on his own life experiences, but he also does make jokes like Bill Burr. But I actually feel sometimes that Bill Burr, there's a hard line with Bill Burr, right? Because I feel like Bill Burr half the time is saying what he actually feels. I don't think that he's hiding that shit. And Mike just referenced Chappelle too. I think Chappelle does that shit too. I think that like I said, the comedy that you make criticizing those people who literally believe that kind of shit, if you get offended by it, then you're one of those fucking people. And I think that that's the tool he's trying to use, is that the ignorance that you're saying he chimes in about himself, is that it's almost like the same way that you have a dog whistle. It's kind of like, if you're really flipping out about this fucking comedic piece right now, then maybe you're the fucking problem that I'm joking about, and that's, I think
Chappelle changed his comedy by changing his he's become a spokesperson now, which he never was. He not really in the past, not to this, not this blatantly anyway. But I don't think you can compare Chappelle to, because I don't think Bill Burr's trying to be a spokesperson for any group of people. I don't think, I think you can't compare Chappelle's stylings with I think it's a whole different game.
Well, let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this. I have two questions I want to ask, and then I'll back out because I've been talking too much. So, my first question is this: anybody in this chat right now that is online, right? Do you feel that you've been brought up in a culture or a household by your parents or your relatives that you have been inclined to think negatively about other people that you can comedically joke around with your friends or family in private about those other people, white, black, yellow, it doesn't matter, class.
I was with you until you said the second part. I was with you until you said the second part. The household I grew up in, there was the only black people that came into that house was the plumber and somebody bought our couch. But I don't feel that my family ever would have found it acceptable to joke or talk in any type of a negative way. It just was not a very colorful household.
Well, what I mean is, okay, all right. So you weren't in a colorful house. I mean, I'm saying in terms of how you viewed your interactions with people throughout the course of your lives, and your parents did, your grandparents did, your aunts, your uncles, whatever, to where at family gatherings or in your upbringing, you felt it okay that, or your family felt it okay that you could crack those jokes and you could have that kind of laughter for a few minutes where nobody really took it seriously, but there may have been some people like, we kind of use that drunk old uncle at Thanksgiving connotation of people, like the Donald Trump mentality of that. But like, I think that, and I hate to say this because I give this much, for anybody who's watching the camera, I give this much credit to when Donald Trump talks, to where I'm like, yeah, I get what he meant, but he's saying it in 1960s speak, which makes it kind of fucked up that he doesn't know as a multimillionaire that that's not how we should say it this time, especially when you're a presidential candidate. But like, where those things got a rise out of people for laughter's purposes, where it's kind of like you didn't even see the fact that maybe that was wrong. That's where I find that the humoristic part, the comedic part, that's a question I have for everybody on the panel here that's in the show right now. Like, did you find that you had joke? I mean, I have people, I joke about other white people all the time. Half my family's Hispanic, half my family's white, but I'm way more white than I am Hispanic. And I joke about white people all the time because I think white people are fucking hilarious.
White people are fucking hilarious,
white
dude.
People hilarious. White people are like the clown car of society.
Oh my God, dude. That's absolutely true.
If I was to honestly look through the years, I could say that through the years that those frequencies of people feeling free to make those types of jokes has been in a steady and pretty drastic decline, which is fortunate.
How so?
It's not as I think that it was way more acceptable to joke in ways that were,
I'll be right back,
demented 30 years ago. It was much, it flowed a lot more, into my world, and it has been in a sharp and steady decline since my youth. Not stating that I was a participant, but just hearing the sounds around me through the years, that those types of things have declined significantly, at least in my orbit. And I hope that that's the case in most other people's orbit. Now, obviously, that's not going to be the case for everybody's orbit, especially now with all this other bullshit. Like it bubbled back up to the fucking surface, and it was always there, but now it was the spotlight was shown on it. But so unfortunately, we may be on the cusp of a swing in the other direction, unfortunately. But I got to say, over the past 30 years, I think it's become more distasteful for most of, and when I say people in my orbit, I'm not even talking about people that keep close to me. I would never accept that on a personal note. When I say in my orbit, that could be work or extended family or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's not people that I necessarily hold dear to me that say those types of things. I'm just saying I hear it less now than I used to. Certainly.
It's definitely way less socially acceptable to make those types of jokes. I guess particularly within my age group, I find that there's less room for that type of behavior. That's what I was saying before. I don't think if George Carlin came, I mean, I love George Carlin, I love Dave Chappelle, and I love Bill Burr. I think they're all hilarious. They all say things that are wildly inappropriate, but I can take it with a grain of salt and say they're just making jokes. I don't think George Carlin would actually go out and do any of the things he was saying. I don't think Dave Chappelle would actually go out and do any of the things he's saying, but it definitely wouldn't fly. I remember even being in college, one of my women's and gender studies classes, we had a whole class on rape jokes, and it was the grand consensus was you never should joke about that ever. But I think that I don't know. I think it's
look at who Dan Harmon, right? He did a whole rape comedy skit, right? And he still gets backlash for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Shit. I just think it's a cultural thing. I think we're moving into a generation, and like Gen Z as well, where like you can't make those types of jokes anymore because they're harmful. They have real world repercussions. People do believe some of the things, some of these racial caricatures. Some people still believe them, but most people who are in my age group or like below me or maybe like more above me slightly are less inclined to say those types of things because they are harmful. They're hurtful.
Can I say something about that too? I want to talk about Eddie Murphy again for just a second because Eddie Murphy is sort of a symbol of that, because if you go back to his stand-up comedy in the 70s, that is some brutal comedy. But at the same time, hold on. At the same time, a lot of people who would do comedy like that back then would be considered liberal. And a lot of people were liberal thinking at the time. But you also see a lot of comedians who are sort of intellectually, evolving from that time. And Eddie Murphy now as a comedian is a completely different thing than he was in 1978. You know what I mean? So you're seeing somebody who's sort of evolving with the times and not using the excuse of like, well, this is what it always meant, and this is what I meant, and if you didn't get it, fuck you. I'm sorry.
But wait. There's two arguments to your point here. One is that as far as comedians go, comedians amongst themselves, amongst each other, it's almost a prerequisite to explore the darkest parts of life. So and to try it out on each other at the very least, to see if something sticks or not with the darkest elements of life. Like not every joke lands, not everything lands. But I think another big element to what you're saying is to what is lost. The part that is we're playing a dangerous game with is if there's topics that are off limits. What comedians can do is they can bring social problems to the surface using pain with laughter.
Dude, I totally understand what you mean. My problem is that
the fact that we're starting to hide certain elements may make those things disappear in the social consciousness. I still think you can bring social awareness to horrific things with laughter. I just think that the expectation to do it has been heightened recently. Like the fucking low blows just don't work anymore. They're cheap shots now. Well, and I think that the more psychologically, nobody cares about low-hanging fruit anymore.
Sure, exactly, right. But not only that, the more psychologically aware you are, the more socially aware you are, the more emotionally aware you are. I think that the higher the expectation from you. And that's why I say a guy like George Carlin, who was, as intelligent as George Carlin, I think if he were starting again now, his act would probably be approached differently, because I think he would understand. George Carlin said something really, really amazing once, which is that people think in language. And he was talking about feminist speech. And he was talking about how, how in feminist speech that it shouldn't be a councilman, it should be council person. And it shouldn't be committeeman, it should be committee person. And he said that those things are important because we think in language. Now, at that time, if in 1972, he was already that forward thinking, that if it were 2022 and he were that age and doing it now, I feel like it would be so much more advanced again.
But also,
so I think that people need to go ahead. I'm sorry.
It would have to be different topics.
Wait, John, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, think of the way that we ingest things now, though. Like, if George Carlin made that statement, you're watching an hour-long George Carlin special, right? It's on TV. It's something that, like, you were watching this entire thing. Now it would be a 30-second clip of something taken out of context or something taken in a way that could be skewed in a way that could mean whatever you want it to mean. I feel like, in the 70s or 80s, 90s, whatever, you're watching something and you're watching something. You were invested in this entire thing. And now it's just like, all right, here's this like 20-second clip. All right, fuck this guy. This guy's canceled. This guy sucks.
Don't you feel? Do you feel? Go ahead. So, I'm sorry.
No. That's it.
Oh well, I was gonna piggyback what you're saying. Do you feel based on that statement? Like, I kind of feel like if George Carlin was a comedian right now, like let's say he was in his 50s right now, or is 45, 50 years old. I think based on his rhetoric and the comments that he made, people would rally behind him more than look at him as a comedian. I feel like he'd be more of a social organizer. I feel like at this point he'd be somebody that would either have a target on his back by the powers that be, because the comments that he made in the 1970s and 80s about not having choice and political parties being shit, nobody's saying that publicly. People are doing YouTube specials
up until that point, up until those last 2 points, Rob, you just described Donald Trump, by the way.
What do you mean? Because I don't feel that that's the case. I feel like you know what I think?
No, he
think
was a representation of social change.
No, I think what you said, it rings true in the fact that that's what people believed Donald Trump stood for. But I think that and now listen, I supported the fucking guy as soon as he opened his mouth until he was on a stage and opened his mouth. Like, I was like, this guy is doing exactly what American population needs. But I think that if George Carlin did it in the way that he was doing it back then, it would be accepted in a way that he would actually be more profound today than he was 20 years ago. I think the things he was saying back then were comedy, and today would be, to your point, Rick, when you originally said that, and to the comments just made, a minute and a half ago, are that I feel that George Carlin, if he were to speak about the things that he spoke about that I find the funniest, the religious comments, the political comments, and the societal comments, I think that those things would get people to rally behind him, and he would end up being a larger than life character more than just a stand-up comedian and philosopher in the way that he was. I think that
fucked up, man, because when I think of like Bill Hicks, or I think about George Carlin, I think about them as comedians, but as somebody who is sort of growing up or developing my opinions about the world at whatever age, when I look at the both of them, I think about how they shaped the way I think socially almost more than I give a shit about how they made me laugh. I feel like they were like philosophers of that time. They weren't
absolutely.
They weren't just, no offense to, what's his name? The guy who smashes
Carlin
fruit with hammers.
Got in his game.
Oh, stop.
Don't fucking listen.
Come on now.
Carlin got in his game when he realized he was more of a linguist than anything else. Certainly.
I agree with that.
Like before that, Carlin is a little bit difficult to watch when he thought he was doing comedy as a comedian. The second he changed his mentality towards what his strong points were with it, when he realized his strengths with it, I think was when he took off into a more philosophy.
I do think it's kind of funny that Rick brought up Gallagher, like in a comical way. Gallagher does have a couple of political and socio-political comments in his comedy, but I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wow, at that time, who was out there? It was him. Like who did you have? You had Sam Kinison out there. You had people who were, you still had Richard Pryor at that time, who was touching the racial boundaries and talking about crazy social stuff. But you had comedians like Howie Mandel, and you had comedians like, Sam Kinison. You had comedians like
Robin Williams, like just doing a million.
Yeah, everything was like
Rodney Dangerfield.
And don't get me wrong, Rodney Dangerfield today wouldn't fucking fly.
I was going to mention to the group.
So here's the question: should Rodney Dangerfield fly today? So let me ask you this, man. So hold on. So if the whole point of education or really good comedy or good writing of any kind is to wake people up and make them understand something socially on a level that they never understand it before, and now they do understand it, maybe the comedy needs to be elevated from there, and maybe that old world, maybe those old jokes don't work anymore. because for a reason. Maybe they're not supposed to work anymore.
I mean, I still find them funny. I still find
dude, no shit, man. If I listen to old TV shows from the 80s, I hear old jokes that make me die laughing. And it's almost like a deep breath because I'm like, oh my God, nobody gives a shit. But like at the same time, I also get it. I get the problem.
Though. Think about the time Archie Bunker was a #1 show in America, bro. Like,
yeah, but like the problem with Archie Bunker was that people like my dad watched it and thought that he was like, oh no, he's right. And it's like, no, this is making
right. That's the problem. And we see that in real time.
Here's the thing.
The funniest shit ever.
Rick's father had Rick listening to Rodney Dangerfield when Rick was like 7 years old. So I mean, you gotta remember the history of the person too here. What we're talking about.
But I also found when I was 12 years old, Dennis Leary put out No Cure for Cancer, and I found that to be fucking hysterical for like 8 years of my life. I thought Dennis Leary was hysterical, and he's still to me very funny in that comedic routine. But he was fucking out of control. The shit he said was like. It was real. I mean, it was fucking real. Like, he was talking about like shit that affected his own life, but he was making comments where you're like, you can't publicly say that fucking shit about people today. Like, you can't, like those people get eaten fucking alive, and yet comedy still strives.
Hold on. I want to read the comments.
Do you guys
just
think
a second.
that?
Hold on. I
want
want to read the
comments.
Let's see. Sam Kinnison, Gallagher. What about Monty Python? Would that translate to a modern audience? Keith said. And Mike Pepe said, I don't think so, but I still like it. Would that translate to a modern audience?
I still like Monty.
Do you think that we've seen the end of monoliths, like with monoliths across the board? Like before, when we only had channels 2 through 13 or whatever, and then cable came along and gave us 100. Now there's literally millions of channels that everyone out there is trying to get everybody else's attention. Do you think that these monoliths, the numbers of monoliths, I think in the 80s and 90s, even into the early 2000s, I think that was really, now monoliths become, it's a unicorn. It's way more of a unicorn now than it used to be. And I don't know if George Carlin would have became as popular in today's landscape.
Do you think?
All right, hold on.
Would
Hold on for a second, Kristen. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to say I like Monty Python. I still watch it.
And I feel like that's kind of outside the box enough that it could still survive.
I find it. I'll be honest with you. I'll be real ageist about this. I can't believe you watch Monty Python.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have no idea who like Rodney Dangerfield is, but I know Monty Python. I think that should.
Monty Python is such a level of dry humor. It's sandpaper up your asshole dry.
Listen, you're talking limey shit there, okay? When you're talking limeys, you're talking some serious.
Well, you're talking about my people now, so I want you to watch yourself there,
If
Rob
it comes down to Monty Python, if it comes down to a choice between Monty Python or Faulty Towers all day, every day. Am I alone here?
No, I totally agree with you. I absolutely agree with you.
I say if you still know who Rodney Dangerfield is, you're better. If you don't know who Rodney Dangerfield is, I agree. You're better off not even giving a shit what his comments
Absolutely.
like. Because at the end of the day, he's a bridge between 1950s one-liner slapstick bullshit and just really being a prick on stage and tell people to go fuck themselves.
And just utter totally annoying asshole.
You're 100% right. The 1950s.
I just can't stand that dude. He's
that guy that's like, take my wife, please, and people like laughed at it.
Like literally is that guy, like the guy that did that.
That was funny.
He's that guy. He's the guy that did that shit. Like, and that shit to me is just like Jesus Christ. He did. Mike Pepe tagged Top Gear BBC in the chat, dude.
Nice.
I think that it's a different element. I think that Monty Python takes a level of intelligence to understand, dude. You can't watch Monty Python. You can't watch European humor in general and not have some sort of intellectual understanding. Because I just watched a British comic on Saturday night last week. I watched a British comic. I can't remember his name, but he's on Netflix, and it's their type of humor in a certain sense when it comes to comedic shit is acting. It's not just go up on a stage and have a script that you've practiced and come up with your stuff. It's a presentation. It's very
Monty
Shakespearean.
Python is the Cheers. Monty Python is to Cheers as Faulty Towers is to Frasier. 100%.
I mean, so that comment, both of those references, you'd have to find either one of those shows somewhat fun to watch. And I got to tell you, even now going back, I find neither of them entertaining.
It's weird.
Ted Danson's wife.
Weird.
Ted Danson's wife goes to sleep every night on Ted Danson watching old episodes of Cheers.
It's so weird that you use the word on Ted Danson.
Like just laying like a board.
No, like falling
On
asleep on
him.
him. No, I think Sarah means that she fell asleep on him in the way that she should have been giving up ass rather than watching old episodes of what her husband used to look like before he dressed up in blackface with fucking do you guys remember that?
No,
remember
now that's comedy. That's
Remember
really
when-
good stuff.
Remember when Ted Danson wore blackface to a fucking premiere with Whoopi Goldberg, who's now a racial activist?
I know, man.
See, people forget that shit or unaware of that. He's on like a major television program right now, and everybody else that would have done that would have been blacklisted.
Oh, the mayor.
Not only that, he showed up in blackface with Whoopi, and Whoopi's one of the largest racial antagonizers in fucking media right now. And she came to his aid and was like, "Oh, it's not a big deal," but now she'll fucking trash anybody who tries to fucking do that shit.
Man. See?
Yeah.
See
Ted
how
Danson showed up. Ted Danson showed up
Danson.
at a goddamn movie premiere in blackface, dude. In like I'm gonna look it up right now because I remember my mother
It was
used
like
to
the
get
mid
those.
'90s. It had to be.
My mother used to get those National Enquirer magazines, and it was all over the fucking National Enquirer.
Man.
See,
I'm honest.
Ted Danson blackface.
So again, we look at somebody who did something in 1991.
I don't know. I think blackface, if you took a class for a whole day on blackface, it would be considered unacceptable no matter what.
1993.
Just like rape.
1993. Okay, 1993.
Blackface is out.
Oh,
No, you can't see it.
I mean, just like we know so many people who've done that though. Like Justin Trudeau did it. He's still the Prime Minister of Canada.
Yeah.
He's still.
Yeah,
he's
that was
still,
wild. Right?
So here's my question. Here's my question.
It
If
doesn't
somebody
matter.
does that, if
It
somebody
doesn't
does that
matter
at
in
some point in their
Canada,
life,
Yeah, that's true.
if somebody does
That's a fair
that at
point.
some point in their life, and they take responsibility for it, and their actions ever since are in favor of the people that they are really sincerely trying to help, are those people worthy of forgiveness?
Yes, I think so. I think so
too.
Yeah.
I actually honestly believe that that's the truth. I think that some people, I think that we destroy people for things that like, and I'm not talking like Bill Cosby rape shit. I'm talking like things that you can do. I'm talking about things where like, all right, so you had a fuck up in one instance in like 1997. Are you supposed to never have a career again? You know, like there's things where you found that funny.
Ask Louis C.K. about that, I guess.
Yeah, but no. Louis C.K. was a gross fucking predator.
It was pretty gross.
Wasn't even fucking that
It was
funny.
pretty gross.
I hate Louis C.K. I hate him. I hate Louis C.K. I'll say that with my whole chest. Louis C.K. was a gross fucking predator.
You know what's funny is that I found him kind of funny at one point, and then I didn't. I just felt him to be a complete and utter jerk off. You know, like I didn't find him funny. I felt like he was using an offensive nature to try to be funny.
Exactly.
Whereas somebody who speaks like him, which is Louis Black, and I think Louis Black is fucking hysterical. And I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but I mean,
who
he
doesn't like him.
definitely grabbed. Yeah, but Louis Black grabbed some unsolicited titty, for sure, and there's picture proof. So
I don't hate him for it.
You don't hate him for it?
No, I don't hate him for
That's
grabbing
rough.
unsolicited
I don't like that. No,
I mean, it's-
I don't like. No, I just don't. I just think that's so fucking icky.
I was also
Anything
being
with, like-
sarcastic.
No, I know. But I just I hate this part of the conversation when we get to this part of cancel culture. Like I do not like cancel culture as a whole. I think there was one article I read about this woman who was like talking about calling people in instead of calling people out. And I think that if we have an opportunity to educate people and make them better, then we should absolutely jump on that and take that opportunity. But once we get to this like part, like there's always this thing with like cancel culture, and that people are, well, this guy did this one thing back in like the 90s, and like, you know, he shouldn't be held you know, responsible for it now. He was just a fucking teenager or whatever. Like I like, no, I think like sexual assault is just something that like you should never.
Don't you also kind of feel? Don't you feel that some of it, when you look at it, when you analyze some of it, don't you feel like? I think for me, my interpretation of it is that I find like, so I find Lewis Black funny. Like mm-hmm. I find his comedy funny, right? But I think that when you do something like that, I think that I look at it more so as not a gender thing, like a sex thing, where it's like, oh, you fucking did that. I think it's more so for me. I tend to be a classist with that kind of shit, where I'm like, oh, you thought because you were fucking famous you could just grab some pussy or some ass and just be like, oh, I'm famous, who gives a fuck? And it's like, you hit a level of what notoriety did you think that you had, that you were on another level to be able to say, you know, who gives a fuck? Here's
so either way, it's still predatory.
Sure, oh, yeah, I'm not taking away from that at all. No, it's. I think also, but I think it's the nature of it. I think that I forget that they're a comedian. And I look at them and go, I think psychologically, you literally think you're bigger than you really are. Because I think the pedestals that we put people on in general are just absurd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think when I look at people that are musicians, I mean, and Rick, you can kind of, you know, if you can back this up for me, I think in the musical world, I think there's so many people that have made so much fucking money in being musicians that aren't musicians. Like, they get picked up for doing no work whatsoever. And there's people I've known that have played music for 40 fucking years and have never gotten one bit of notoriety.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, I was just actually thinking about this today. Driving home, I was listening to somebody on the radio, and I was like, you know, I wonder what their net worth is. And I looked it up, and it was like a couple fucking $1,000s. And I'm like, you're fucking dope. And you've got like 12 albums, and you're worth a couple grand. Right. And somebody who made a TikTok video is worth $100 million fucking dollars. Sure. Yeah. And you know, we're in a lifestyle where, like, we talk about these people. I'll give you an example that really fires me the fuck up. We're talking about comedians who offend people, and we're talking about people who make it famous, and we think, well, should they get a pass here or should they get a pass there? I'm having a really hard time with the Paul family. Okay, I'm having a really hard time with
the fact they're terrible, bro.
Oh, you mean like Jake Paul?
I almost ran him over.
Yeah, they're terrible.
I almost ran him over.
They're not
tell you guys that story?
Okay, so here we go. So here's what we're talking about. What we're talking about is we're talking about when something bad mutates from the right message. So when George Carlin says, oh, you can joke about anything, idiots who don't understand that what he's saying is you can make intelligently a joke about anything, think you can actually turn anything into a joke, which you cannot fucking do. So those two fucking assholes have turned everything into a joke in their fucking world, to the point where it's sociopathic. Like, the reason why we even know who the fuck they are is because Logan Paul walked into the suicide forest in Japan, and he fucking filmed himself standing next and laughing next to somebody who actually hanged themselves in the fucking suicide forest.
Right.
They are sociopathic fucking maniacs. And what bothers me...
I knew them before. They were, like, Logan Paul, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but, like, Logan Paul and Jake Paul, I knew them both before that video blew up, and because they were on Vine.
Can I ask you something? How old are you?
Fucking video, and they would basically like just prank the shit out of people in really horrifically, like, borderline abusive way.
Sadistic.
Yeah, like totally sadistic.
How old are you, Kristen? When that
video came out, when Logan Paul was like in the forest and looking at this body and was like laughing, I was like, this kid just showed us all that he was a fucking sociopath the entire time.
But here's the problem. My problem is when I read comments, especially about the shit that's going on with Jake Paul and the boxing thing, I read comments from parents who go, I don't even know who the fuck this is. Fuck this guy. What worries me about what you just said is how many kids know who these guys are, and I know who the fuck they are. And I go, I can't believe how many young people follow these fucking assholes. They're sociopaths, dude. The way they behave is fucked up. It's a total It's like when the desire
Right.
for money
Are we
mutates
haters though?
into
Are
a
we
person.
fucking haters?
No,
Are
we're
we
not
just
haters. We're
No.
observing people who are shitty as fuck to other people. Logan Paul once said in an interview that if I make $60,000 in a YouTube video in one day, that's a really bad day for me.
Wow.
So I almost killed them by accident. I almost ran them over with my car. I was doing a show at Starland Ballroom in Sayreville, and it was when they were doing the whole boxing thing. Like, so they were training for boxing, right? And this was like super late at night, and they were running around the parking lot. So I don't know if you're familiar with Starland Ballroom's parking lot, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, the parking lot's fucking blacked out.
And
But there's still
gravel.
fans.
It's just gravel with no lights. There's like nothing.
No
there.
lights and no like curb to like have to like guide yourself onto the road that has a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit and shit like that, right? So the parking lot's fucking dark, right? Like there ain't no fucking lights nowhere. There's still a few hanger around fans by their bus or whatever the fuck. But these two jackasses are apparently jogging around the parking lot. Now I'm headed towards the road outside the club, which I was ready to just step on the fucking gas and go onto the fucking highway because it was it was a 45-minute speed, and I knew there was no curb there, but I couldn't see shit. I'm blind as fuck anyway. And these two assholes, I had no idea were running around this dark ass parking lot. Right before I just pulled out onto the fucking road, I just so happened to stop my fucking car to change the fucking radio station. The second my car came to a complete stop, these two assholes are running full force into my fucking car. And I totally I was a split second away from running these two dicks over. And every time I bring up the story, there's always one person that's like, you should have killed him.
I was gonna say that, actually. I'm that asshole.
Yeah, me too.
I'm honestly, out of all the people that you could throw at me like that, I got a severe fucking problem with the fact that not only have they been accepted, but they have been antagonized and they have been paid millions of dollars now to do what other than be pieces of shit publicly.
They had dollar signs on the side of their bus, and it was called like the Money Crew or the Money Towards, some bullshit like that. And it was like, it made me want to puke the second they rolled in and I had to load their shit into the fucking club, man. I was like, oh, you fucking dicks. And then he's inside talking about
in the
teachers and
comments.
school and shit. I'm like, oh, you're appealing to some bullshit.
In the comments, somebody brought up Amy Schumer. How Amy Schumer is somebody you could easily fucking hate.
Why? And I wonder why. Why do we hate Amy Schumer?
I met Amy Schumer.
I'm just curious because so many people dislike her.
I met Amy Schumer, and she was cool as shit when I met her. And I don't know why people hate on her the way that they do. There was the only thing that I ever
I think she could be obnoxious.
Agreed with.
She could definitely be obnoxious.
And I don't even know that I agreed with it because it got really shady after the fact. Was people said that she stole jokes from 3 other comedians. And they all said they had proof, and then 2 of them decided to apologize for fucking up her career or whatever the fuck, and it just got really bizarre with her. So for me, even if I accidentally tell a joke that I've heard somewhere else, I try to give credit to the person who said it. You know what I mean? And I can remember Joe Rogan jumping up on stage, with Carlos Mencia because he was stealing fucking jokes and
how
took him out.
Fucking hysterical was that shit though,
right?
Dude,
but when it comes to comedy, stealing jokes is a really bad deal. But to your point, I'm not sure I could say that that's why people attacked Amy Schumer. I feel like that happened almost after the attack on her started, and I don't really get it either.
Yeah, I think I find that to be a thing with women or female comedians or women comedians.
Do you feel like it's changing?
Do I feel like it's changing?
Yeah, Sarah and I, we've watched several comedians, in the last couple of years that were female comedians who I feel like their clout has grown dramatically, and which is good to see. So I wonder if the culture of that is starting to finally shift over.
The part of it is that, there's probably more famous female comedians, or maybe it's more in our face because the second you turn on Netflix, if there's a new comedy special, you see it instantly. But the idea of going into like, I think a lot of people will go into like a comedy show if there's like more than one act, sort of assuming that if the woman is funny, that's going to be the surprise. Like, it's like it almost like you're accepting, you expect that she's probably not going to be that good. And if she is good, you're like, wow, like that's cool. Like, I didn't think that was good. It's the same thing as the South Park episode where Cartman's like, girls are funny.
Girls
like
are funny.
they're making a point about the fact that a lot of people will just assume that a female isn't going to be funny. Like, it's going to be lame. It's going to be whatever. It's weird how like men manage to sort of get their foothold in the whole war games thing, but also on the flip side manage to be the ones that are just to assume that they're going to be hilarious.
Facts. I
don't know, man. Guys, it's
You
getting...
just gotta laugh.
Yeah, right?
That's all. You just gotta laugh. That's it.
That's right.
I mean, doesn't it come full circle at you just look at other people in society and you think, what do you really fucking think all day? Like, like when you find, I mean, it sounds almost elitist though, doesn't it? I kind of feel like when you start thinking about things outside the box and you use an open mind and you critically think about shit, I think that there's such a small group of people that it starts to become almost an aristocracy of thought. And it's I've referenced Plato a million times when it comes to the Republic and like the idea of Plato thinking that philosopher kings will one day rule the world. But like, if you put knowledge and education first and you think about the world and you think about how you interpret things and you use your experiences and you read and educate yourself, that humor comes in ways where people are not going to find certain things funny. Because I have people that I know so many people who find certain comedians hysterical, and I'm like, there's nothing behind what they're doing. There's no fucking humor behind it. And then I find things. I mean, it takes a certain person to watch Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. Like you automatically, like, I find John Oliver to be hysterical, but it's because he's intelligent. He's telling you certain things, and his jokes take a certain kind of mind. People can't watch South Park and find humor in it sometimes, and they get offended by things, and you're like, it's just publicly commenting on things that people already blow up out of proportion. South Park's a very controversial thing. I start to feel like I can laugh at certain things. Some things I don't find funny. Some things I think go over the top. And I feel like
I stopped watching South Park for a damn long time when Mel Gibson took a shit on his head. I couldn't do it.
But I think
that was your line. Huh?
You listen, guys. You could say a lot of things, but you cross the line about Mel Gibson, and Stones is out.
That's crazy because Mel Gibson's an utter piece of shit. But
Wait, we like Mel Gibson or we don't like Mel Gibson?
No one likes Mel Gibson.
No one. Okay, good.
I'm not sure. Does Stones like Mel Gibson?
He better not.
Stones.
Otherwise, he deserves a punch in the face.
Stones, why?
No, I'm sorry. I walked away from the microphone.
Were you going to get your Mel Gibson?
I do not like Mel Gibson, but it was just there's the fact
I'm not
that
gonna lie.
I
honestly felt like Stones was going to get a Mel Gibson T-shirt to put on and come back on camera and
Passion
be
of
like,
the Christ poster.
When I was watching an animation of a human being shitting on another human being.
I'm not gonna lie, bro.
The thing that really shocks me is that you had watched South Park up to that part and not have caught on to the shit jokes until that moment. Because, dude, that was like season what? Like, how many fucking seasons were before that? They have character made out of actual shit, and it took you that fucking long to be like, the shit's too much for me.
How many episodes of Terrence and Phillip did you have to watch before you were like, wow, they're farting on people? That's like a real thing.
But I'll tell you, since South Park made the statement that they were sick of the fart and shit jokes, it's been fucking brilliant since then. I've been an avid watcher.
But don't you think don't you think collectively, like if you watch Rick and Morty, or you watch something like to that caliber of comedy, where you have to read into the jokes to the point where you have to have some sort of humor. I've watched people walk out of a room that I've had that on and been like, I don't get this, it's fucking stupid, and you're like, because you're not looking.
You just don't get it.
Like
I said the same thing.
You are the kind of person that finds Ronnie Dangerfield hysterical. You think one-liners and stupid shit are fucking funny, or you find blatantly fucking racist jokes funny. Those people are fucking making fun of the people that find that shit funny, and that's what I find funny. That's what I find. And I think at a certain point, I start to feel kind of like that's elitist shit. I think that starts to become a problem.
Intellectualism is becoming elitist because it's become so goddamn popular to shit on people who are smart.
Well,
isn't that the problem, though?
Rob was saying before about how certain comedy acts, they don't speak to them and stuff like that. A lot of times I find certain comedy acts surprising that they've gained so much traction because there's not a lot of depth to them. But I think that a certain group of people enjoy comedy that doesn't have depth to it, so something that they don't have to really think about, and yeah, that speaks exactly to this point of elitism in the comedy that
but it bothers me, man.
You're outcasting an entire segment of the population that doesn't necessarily.
Am I outcasting, or am I criticizing a sect of the population that accepts their own shallowness?
You're unjustly criticizing it the same way that you don't allow criticism when there's auto-tune, like that's somebody's art. Their art is their comedy, and if a certain section of the population enjoys that part of the comedy,
I have no problem with auto-tune.
Then absolutely you're being critical. Absolutely you're being fucking critical.
I'm on board with auto-tune, Stones.
No, I know you're on board with auto-tune, but you're not on board with simple comedy, something that doesn't take depth.
No, I'm not on board with simple-minded stuff.
Auto-tune is simple-minded, bro. What the fuck? How is that even an argument?
Dude, there is a lot of science and I'm shocked to hear that from you, Stones.
It's
the amount of
science
and math that goes into auto-tune is ridiculously beyond your comprehension, evidently.
Wait a minute. What is the argument right here? Are you actually making a point?
Yeah, but dude, if that's seriously your argument, I think your argument would be better in saying the person that programmed the shit that makes the fucking auto-tune work is amazing, but not necessarily the person who decides to use it consistently. Like the programming behind it might be amazing, but that doesn't, like, if I buy a fucking science book written by one of the greatest physicists of all time, that doesn't mean necessarily that greatness was passed down to me.
Oh, I agree with you 100%, dude. My fucking point is you can have all the fucking automated shit in the fucking world in front of you, but you still need to fucking be able to make music for people to give a shit about it.
Wait, so you're saying collect?
Yeah. Comedy that has no depth has a storyline. There is a formula the same.
Yes, comedy that has no depth has a simple audience that's generally difficult to deal with even in everyday life. Well, that's the problem.
Absolutely correct in that statement. You are 100. You rang the bell, and I have to ask at that point: are we a fan of Post Malone because of autotune or no?
You know what's weird about Post Malone is I don't know his music, but he seems like he's really cool to hang out with.
He did that Nirvana show.
Kate's venting about it. What do you got,
Kristen?
Kate? What did I say, Kate? I was thinking Kate McKinnon. I was going to ask a question about Kate McKinnon.
I like Post Malone. I love Post Malone. But this is like...
Sorry, Kristen. You're Kate McKinnon. Yeah, okay. You're Kate McKinnon for the rest of the show. Can you dress up like fucking every character ever?
Yes. No, this bothers me because like this is the same thing people were talking about, like mumble rap. It's not real music.
Wow.
Wah. Shut up. Everybody just wants to like what they want to like.
I agree.
It doesn't have to. Sometimes I like things that are intellectually stimulating, but sometimes I just want to fucking laugh. I don't want to think about how shitty the fucking world is. I don't want to like sit down and listen to a song that's gonna make me think about like my last 4 exes and like why my life is such a fucking miserable failure. I just want to like have a good time. Post Malone makes music for me to have a good time with. You know, I could take shots with my friends, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right, exactly.
Cool.
Like life isn't all one thing, right? So your artistic representation of your everyday life shouldn't be all the same, right?
No,
like I like Tech Nine, but I also
Christian,
like
you
dyslexic speed
generalized.
readers because
But
dyslexic speed readers are just fucking
that shit.
dyslexic.
You went right into,
I think
what?
You went right into the fact that
classifying
we should
things
not
as
disregard mumble rappers. First of all, okay. Now,
First off, I feel people don't understand. Look, mumble rap is important, Rob. Mumble rap
she said
is
it with a straight
important.
face too. She went, "Wait a minute, hold on. So what?
Hold on.
You ain't a mumble rapper fan. I'll tell you what right now." So I think
mumble rap matters.
Absolutely.
Listen, I like
absolutely.
Cardi B. Listen, I love Cardi B.
No, you don't.
I love her music. I think she's great.
You don't.
I think she's awesome.
Yes, I do. I love her music. It's fucking fun. It's fun music.
Kate,
am I going to sit there and get all of like? Am I going to listen to her music to solve all of life's problems? No.
She is collectively saving the environment. She's saving the environment.
But here's the deal, man. If you want to talk shit about mumble rap, here's the point. Here's what I think the point is. This is what I've come to understand. Every generation has music that older people don't get.
Oh, don't do this.
It's filled with an entire. Listen,
exactly.
Yeah, but here's why. Here's why. Listen, this is what's important. It's filled with an entire. Listen to me. It's filled with an entire language that you don't understand, and you are designed to not want to understand. So a generation is communicating with itself in a language that it understands, but you think is stupid because it's not meant for you.
Come back to
well, here's the thing. Here's
my elitist mentality right now.
It's developed in it. Look, your generation and my generation had slang, and that slang had a purpose. And the purpose was we communicated on a level that other people couldn't get, other generations couldn't get. Mumble rappers need that shit because you can't look up mumbles to fucking figure out what they mean.
They need mumble rap because they can't logically put rap together and actually do it. They can
they're fucking really making money, huh?
Oh, come on now you know on a musician level you're losing me.
I'm sorry.
Anybody that's
maybe I get maybe it's not that they're trying to be. Maybe they're just not fucking trying to attain mimicking someone else. Maybe they just think that this is what the fuck they want to do, and that's it. And people gave it the name mumble rap, but it doesn't necessarily mean they want to be Snoop Dogg.
No, it means that they're actually mumbling over a goddamn track.
Yeah, I know. Well, the thing is,
I agree. I think I misread that.
The thing is, there's a lot of fucking.
I want you, hey Rick, for a second.
There's a lot of music that not, and I don't mean like instrumental and classical music. I mean, there's a lot of music from all over the world that is not people saying words. There's people that are, and I'm not saying I like it because I don't, dude. Most fucking music.
Listen, I don't find this as a conversation of liking or disliking. I'm completely open to liking and disliking music, but
you're an elitist. You're an elitist. That's the problem.
I'm sticking to it. Right.
It's time they started making more music for white guys in their 40s.
I liked you. I fucking liked you.
It's our time now.
I know nobody gives a shit about the whites.
Right, the whites with their love of rap. Let me define that 92 ass track we should be listening to right now.
Oh, no.
Look at Keith's comments in the chat.
Let me take a look here. Hold on, let me back up. Mumble rap is definitely a different genre.
Like an hour because he's like 3 days behind on the fucking chat right now.
Hold on.
I don't like that we're shitting on mumble rap. I just want to point that out.
You took that seriously.
Talent,
I like Migos. I like Migos. What can I say?
I don't.
I'm not against them either. I'm not against them either. Don't get me wrong.
The reason I'm not shitting on it is because I have to hear the conversations in this apartment so often about which fucking musician's better than whatever, and all I think every time I hear it is nobody's better. Like a person could hum one fucking thing and someone else somewhere in the world will think that's the most beautiful thing they ever fucking heard. So none of it at all matters to me. If you fucking like it, I don't give a shit what it's called. Like, that's great for you.
I've
You
heard some
like.
hums I don't think anybody can find beauty in. I've definitely heard some hums that are questionable.
Fine, but there's one person that likes it. And like, that's all that fucking really matters.
Right, and the bizarre fucking rhythms of your brain just can't fucking sync with it, Stones.
Maybe the one that made it finds it, joyous.
Yeah, and millions other. Hold on. So Keith said mumble rap is definitely a different genre than boom bap hip hop. Trap beats are a totally different BPM. Let's see. But then why do the kids that work for me listen to hip hop from the early to mid thousands? Because it's better. So at the same time, man, like, yeah. So I was talking to Stones about this last night about how I don't know how anything is better than anything else anymore. I think that everything is on the table right now. So, for example,
except
so for,
This is
hold on.
some existential
So, for example,
right now.
right? Take video games, right? Video games.
Rob, that sounds like something an elitist would say. I'll
It
be
does,
honest.
to be honest.
You're goddamn right. You shut your mouth.
So, video games were once in an arcade, right? And the arcade gave way to the Atari, and then the Atari gave way to the Nintendo. And by the time that happened, people started to say arcades were obsolete. People didn't need them anymore. Now, companies that make arcade machines are fucking blowing up and making millions of dollars because people want them in their house. Record sales make up something like 35% of music sales right now because selling vinyl records went through the roof. So hold on a second.
Nostalgic 40-year-old ass is buying fucking cabinets.
So here's the deal. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. Statistically speaking, these companies are making millions of dollars, right? And if you can take a dead technology from the 1970s and suddenly reappropriate it to 2020 and say record vinyl sales are 35% of fucking music sales right now, that's fucking ridiculous. So what that tells me is that people are starting to see that there's a lot of different ways of doing things and that maybe one thing doesn't cancel out the other and maybe we're just adding to the list. If you want to listen to music on tape, listen to it on tape. You want to listen to MP3s, listen to MP3s. You want to listen to records, listen to records. You want PlayStation VR and PS5, be my guest. You want the fucking Pac-Man machine over there? That's fucking fun too. So all of a sudden there's this sort of level playing field going on with all of art and technology where it's like, I just kind of feel like everything is on the table now. Things aren't outdating other things anymore. Does that make sense?
I didn't hear you once use 8-track or Laserdisc in that rant.
I didn't use that old shit, Rob.
I'm offended. I am offended because I have a catalog of Laserdiscs and I have 7 cabinets full of 8-track, and you did not give any notation to that at all.
Yeah.
Rob, I have an 8-track player. You got to loan me some of those 8-tracks, man.
You don't fucking have an 8-track player. Get the
oh
fuck
my god, yes I do. I absolutely fucking do, man. It's a record player with an 8-track working. The microphone I plugged in earlier was from that fucking machine.
Everybody here is cracking jokes on 40-year-old nostalgic shit, and the oldest person in here is Stones. He's gonna be 48 this year.
I'm not the oldest.
He's gonna be 48 this year, and for the record, Stones has an 8-track player he's about to go get and show you. So this is how offended people in their 40s get when you start talking shit about things
especially
that they hold
white
near and dear.
dudes.
White nostalgic. Say it with the H, goddammit. White nostalgic.
What?
So my point before I call Kristen Kate. My question was for people who, when we were talking about female comedians, I find Kate McKinnon to be a prolific comedian.
She's like Gilda Radner, dude.
On a whole nother level though, Rick. Like she's the minute she shows up on a like she slides in on
immediately
shit,
excited for comedy.
I piss my pants the minute that she shows her face.
Genius.
She doesn't have to talk. And Kristen, I apologize for mixing you up with her, but you're an elite you're an elite group there for throwing that around. Because I, being an elitist, you're welcome to the crowd.
It's okay.
But no. But what I mean is, so I didn't know for a while. She actually, she is a lesbian, and she came out publicly, and started to like embrace that publicly. And for the most part, for being a largely syndicated show, even though SNL was highly liberal in that sense, they usually face some kind of blowback for shit like that.
Yeah.
And with her, she didn't, because she's universally hysterical. And I find that to be, I mean, other than the fact that there's obviously political boundaries with SNL versus, say, the conservative group of people that don't like, the satire that's on this show. But I think in terms of where female comedians are versus the comments that we were talking about with Amy Schumer, there's like 9 or 10 big hitters out there now that you wouldn't have found back then. When you say Gildan Radler was like one of 3 people,
That's right.
And
yep.
Even after her for 20 years, there was like 3 people. There
Sure.
was nobody, and even those people were borderline considered not funny because they were just opening acts for the
Sure.
mainstream comedians. And at that point, the mainstream comedians were people like, the half-ass comedians that we referenced earlier, Gallagher's and the
Sure.
fucking and
female
I find
comedians over the years, man, they had a rough climb. And think about the
and
shit
I
they
thought
had to
them
do.
kind of hysterical. Like
Think about Sandra Bernhard.
Hysterical, dude. Yeah,
Sandra Bernhard had to be brutal, and she took a lot of shit.
Those people got shit on. Their comedy today would be flat out offensive, and it was only because they were women. That was it. It was just offensive because they who the fuck were they to say those things?
Sure.
And I found it like incredible that a person like Kate McKinnon can impersonate 8 to 10 different men, and it's fucking hysterical.
It's perfect,
dude. It's
the reason why it's something that like female comedians have to be. It's like this weird thing where it's like you can't say anything off-putting or like cheap shot sort of gross comedy, like things like that. Like if you're a female, like that's like way not right. Like there's still this idea of like you have to be a lady to some degree, even if we're not telling people to get their elbows off the table like maybe people once did. But like just even like sex jokes, dude, if a woman tells it, there's a level of like, oh, she's not as attractive anymore for certain people because it's an off-putting or taboo topic where men can say whatever, basically, like, oh, they're talking about like, fucking whatever, like something utterly disgusting. It's like a male comedian could joke about like, oh, my balls were sweating on my girlfriend's face, when I leave, whatever. And like
Jesus Christ.
But if a female made an equivalently disgusting joke about her body, there would be such a level of expectation not reached simply because she allowed herself to look human to some degree instead of the standard of I'm a woman, so I have to like be a woman. Like it's like that, I think, still exists because the second you see any female comedian start, like Amy Schumer was one, and I'm not saying that that's why it was brought up in the chat, but Amy Schumer is a good example of that because she did a lot of jokes about her body and talking about things that like that men can get away with, and it was just hate, and like I've seen that so many fucking times, dude. Like the only women that I see get away with that are women that, societally speaking, don't, when you look at them, aren't the ideal idea of attractive. What I mean is Roseanne. She could say shit like that with no expectation of that, because the second most people see Roseanne, they don't go, wow, she's a fucking blonde bombshell with big tits or whatever. They don't think about it that way with her. But like if you have a hot fucking blonde come out and she starts telling like fart jokes, like that's taken totally different, even if the joke and delivery is exactly the fucking same.
That's everything.
Totally,
too.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I would
That's-
like to think that in recent years, I see things evolving, though, in a better direction.
No way. Remember when WAP came out? Everybody freaked out.
Yeah,
and
but
lost
here's the
Somebody
thing.
put
No,
that-
you're
somebody
right.
just
You're
put
right.
that in the
Everybody did freak
comments.
out, but in 1995, that might have ruined her career. And I feel like,
Oh, yeah.
but now the difference is there's a lot of people who got it, and a lot of people who went, and a lot of men who went, I don't give a fuck. This is awesome. I don't give a shit. I've been listening to Snoop Dogg do this shit for fucking 25 fucking years. He's been talking shit like this. Like, what's the difference? And I feel like that influence has bubbled over to where Cardi B is a force. She's not just a force in music. She's a political force. She's a force in feminism. Like, she's a fucking force. And she lived a shit life before being famous. Like, a real shit life.
Yeah.
Before being fucking famous. So, yeah, I agree with you that there was a lot of really bizarre hate. Same as there was for Greta Thunberg. Like, you've never
Yeah.
seen so many fucking middle-aged white men more threatening your goddamn life over a 16-year-old girl, right? But at the same time...
16. She
I
was
feel
like
like
14 or 13 or something.
Right, but at the same time, I feel like she also made a bigger impact because I'd like to think that more of us than have maybe been in a long time are listening now. So I hope that it's changing. I hope it's not as bad as it was in 1985. You know?
Well, I was going to show you my 8-track player, my record player with the Peter Frampton
Nobody
45.
gives a shit about your fucking 8-track player, Stones.
But I got bored holding the camera by it, so I went back downstairs.
Who gives a fuck, Stone?
So you have it? Do you have it?
What? Do I have the 8-track player?
Yeah,
Yes,
we
absolutely.
have to find better music for older 49-year-old men who have 8-track players who like shitty music.
You
Listen.
said you had an 8-track collection, Rob. You
My
lied.
8-track
lied.
collection is
Guys,
fucking bomb ass. It doesn't
we-
even
Is
get
it?
played on
All right,
your
well then
8-track.
you got to bring some by, man. We got to crank some fucking tunes, dude.
We
My
have to
8-track
start
collection.
wrapping up the
Here,
evening,
for the
folks.
record, my 8-track
The reason
collection
why
is
he
actually-
said we have to crank some tunes is because the only music he listens to, you actually literally have to crank a fucking crank.
Well, like you. It's like an old
He's got
Ford.
the old Edison fucking jaunt. He's just fucking.
It's got a
the
big horn
8-tracks
coming out of the top of it.
The 8-tracks I have are actually the samples that most of the rappers in the 90s used.
Oh,
So
dope.
listen, we gotta wrap this up. So, John, do you have a special final word for tonight?
I do.
Oh my God, that's fucking amazing. So, Rob, you don't know this, but John was on Awesome Talk for years, and he used to close the show with the special final word, and it's fucking phenomenal.
We talked about John Lacki last night with Rob.
That's right.
Lest we forget.
Right.
Lest we forget.
Right.
Not nice that he's not privy to the conversation that we had last night.
Oh,
Well, we were
Well,
talking
John,
about auto blows.
John, for the record, it was an absolute shit show. I think Stones was on drugs. I'm not gonna lie.
Auto Blow came up. Auto Blow came up as one of our sponsors, and we had
Just so
mentioned
you
that.
know, while you said Auto Blow is one of the sponsors, in the chat right now, I'm just watching a weird sleeve get jerked off by two ropes.
No,
of
Rob
beads
brought it up.
because
Rob,
Sarah
so
shared it in the.
John, Rob brought up the Auto Blow, not knowing that
Guys,
that you
let's end the
that
goddamn show here.
not that they were a sponsor, and we let Rob know that you were supposed to write a review on it that you never got around
Yeah.
to doing.
I never wrote a review. I wrote an FAQ for the auto
He
blow.
wrote,
but
he wrote he definitely wrote a diary entry about it,
wrote an
but he didn't
FAQ
necessarily
for it?
write.
okay.
Yeah, I wrote an FAQ for the auto blow, and then they sent me an auto blow. They sent us 2 auto blows.
That's right. That's right.
What
We have
I'd
the
like
other one
to
here.
know is it currently worth the 119.95 euros that it's online for?
If you can pay in Bitcoin, I think that's probably a better way to go. Just some crypto shit.
Kristen,
Yes.
I want to say thank you so much for being on the show again tonight.
Oh, thank you guys for letting me be.
You are awesome as usual. Is there anything that you want to say to close out the evening? Your microphone's super low.
Wait, I'm super low. Oh, sorry. Is that better? My microphone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you got like significantly lower.
Why? Sorry, I'm just gonna blame Skype. I just hope everybody has a good new year. Hopefully, we all get vaccinated soon and then died and not die of a horrible virus.
Agreed. And thank you so much for being on again.
Oh, thank you.
You're awesome every time.
Sorry about that mumble rap, Rob.
Dude, I'm on board with you with
offended.
mumble rap, and we will pick this
irony in all
conversation
of
up.
it-
We will.
The irony in all of it is that I actually like Post Malone. Like
Yeah.
that was my curiosity. Like,
And I don't know if
they,
I don't know if he counts, but I'm starting to like Mac Miller, and I don't know if he's mumble rap, but some of his shit's pretty mumbly.
Oh,
So
no, Mac Miller's far from mumble rap.
God,
Mac
he's
Miller's
good though.
That he hits.
Yeah,
He's
man,
right.
for real.
Yeah.
Damn.
But I think Mac Miller's more to what her point was originally about people who can hit you in the heart about something that's more
For real.
commonplace. But I think that the mumble rap stuff is it's obnoxious, but it gives you some feels while you're drinking. That's what the kids say, feels, right? You get the feels. John, is that what the kids say? Is that what the kids are saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. That's
He's
as a
got
kid
it.
myself, I totally know what the kids say.
Right. That's
So, John, you're going to close this out for the final word, special final word. Okay, I just want to say thank you to everybody who watched tonight, who shared tonight, everybody who was on tonight, everybody who talked tonight, everybody who left comments tonight, and everybody who is included this evening. Please share the show and hit like and subscribe and all that stuff. And
And please also go find Charity with Consequences page. And if you have any good ideas for consequences, please comment and let us know. But Mike Pepe, stick around for John Lackey's final word.
It's going to be awesome. John Lackey, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to ask everybody to be silent.
Yes. No one make a sound during all of this.
Yes.
Yeah, no heckling, Stones.
My mic's off. Mic is off.
All right, great. All right, so it's New Year's Day, so it's a good time to share a story about Halloween because that's the last story that I wrote. So this is what I'm going to talk about Halloween 4 sweatpants. That is the name of my story. My Instagram algorithm showed me an ad for Halloween 4 sweatpants. Sweatpants emblazoned with the words Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers on one leg, and some images both from and inspired by the film on the other. The sweatpants do not appear to be officially licensed. And the algorithm suggested that I'd like a pair of Halloween 4 sweatpants based on my interests, namely leisure wear and countless Halloween sequels. And it was at that moment, staring at my phone, finger hovering over the Buy It Now button under the ad for Halloween 4 sweatpants, that I asked myself, what am I doing with my life? So if I could just share a picture, hold on. I can just share the screen real quick. I don't know if you can see that at all. Halloween 4 sweatpants. All right, here we go.
totally. You can see it.
Great. Okay. So normal people don't see ads like this. Normal people see ads for sweatpants like they could wear to brunch because they're nice sweatpants and don't feature the logo of a movie where a serial killer who was shot in the eyes and lit on fire 2 sequels prior is now back and not burned to a crisp and not blind. No normal person is waiting in line at the post office wearing sweatpants adorned with the image of a serial killer's young niece dressed as a clown holding a pair of blood-soaked scissors, who through reasons that are never fully explained has developed a telepathic link with her uncle. They're probably just gray. The sweatpants that the person waiting in the line at the post office is wearing. Maybe they'll just get a coffee or a sweet treat from the bakery around the corner, and during the walk over, no one will look at their sweatpants and say, Jesus Christ. My issue with the sweatpants comes down to specificity. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers on a pair of sweatpants. Not just Halloween or a picture of Michael Myers or the classic jack-o'-lantern that's actually a big old knife logo. No, when an individual wears Halloween 4 sweatpants, they are making the following statements. 1. You think you like Halloween? Buddy, take a look at my legs and think again. 2. Do you remember the scene in Halloween 4 where Michael Myers is gingerly piercing the edge of a pumpkin with a large knife, just kind of standing there? Well, he never did that in Halloween 4, even though that image is printed on my sweatpants. And I'm such a fan of Halloween 4 that I know this off the top of my head, Buster Brown. 3. Hey, you know what? Fuck you, pal. Just generally. This isn't even about my sweatpants anymore. I just want you to know that this whole system, this society, not for me, friend. Not today, not ever. In the long line of Halloween sequels, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers is fine. It's fine. After killing him off in part 2, then going completely sans Michael in the, after years of hindsight, terrific part 3, the titular return of the main character was inevitable in 1988, and it's fine. You take the basic outline of the original, you amp it up a little, you throw a trench coat on Donald Pleasance, the only returning actor from the original 2, have him run around, done. But the opening credit sequence, the first minutes of the movie, is surprisingly beautiful. Lingering shots of farmland at dusk, old tattered Halloween decorations, some of which are featured on the sweatpants. There's a lot happening on these sweatpants. Interspersed with close-ups of sharp, deadly-looking farming implements. It's quiet and subdued and creepy and very well could be the very best part of this movie. And that's fine. That being said, stop trying to sell me Halloween 4 sweatpants. There was a time when memories of a movie weren't constantly being sold to me. The algorithms are now so specific, so firmly implanted in my eye sockets that if I accidentally look at a production still from Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, an alarm sounds, a lever is pulled, and my feed demands that I buy a pair of sweatpants to pledge my loyalty to nostalgia. Remember this, fucko? The algorithm asks as an ad for Saw 2 leggings slams a spiked bat into my brain. Sue-wee, Piggy loves his slop, the algorithm screams as ad after ad for the Omen 3 lunchboxes tears me limb from limb like a pack of hunting dogs. Halloween 4 sweatpants were created in a lab. An AI was forced to watch Halloween 4 150,000 times. Then a few days later, it threw up the concept of Halloween 4 all over a pair of sweatpants. They're $40. You can buy the Blu-ray for $8. The end.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Absolutely genius as usual. Absolutely genius.
Thank you.
John, there's a reason why you were voted Playboy's greatest writer of all time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Listen,
Thank you,
guys.
Playboy.
John, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
And Kristen, thank you again so much for joining us.
Keith said his new consequence is going to be Halloween 4 sweatpants.
Fuck yes.
All right, we're peacing
You
out.
have to eat a pair of Halloween 4 sweatpants.
Oh, eat the whole thing.
But with hot sauce.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously. I mean, come on.
All right. Dude, we're closing out the show today. Awesome Talk Quarantine Edition number 21 on January 1st, 2021, folks. Thank you all so much for joining us. And like I said, hit subscribe and share and like and all that good stuff. Thank you to John and Kristen for being here tonight. And we are out.